everybody came to the table with the understanding that you got this core stuff, but at some point you gotta be your own person. You know what I mean? And who is that person? What are you bringing to the table? How can our brand support you? And how can your brand support us?
You're listening to the Aerial Hour, episode number 18. The Aerial Hour is a show for aerial entrepreneurs and enthusiasts to come together, share ideas, and continue to grow our ever-evolving community. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Aerial Hour. I'm going to make today's intro short because today's episode is long and fabulous, just like our guest, who is none other than the Torwa Joe of Veritcal Joes. When I first started this show, Joe was at the very top of my list of people I wanted to interview. Her involvement in this industry has been epic. From her past being a programmer in the gym industry to moving over to the pole industry, Joe has been through it all. She's toured with Lil Wayne, appeared on the Real Housewives of Atlanta, and started countless pole programs around Atlanta. And in this episode, we'll talk about all that and more. To find out how Joe manages her staff, creates new programming, and books huge gigs, listen to this episode. And if you want to know more, well, actually, for this episode, all the links I'll be listing will be resources for Black Lives Matter. It's currently June 16th, and we are in the middle of a movement, and one that I'm really just, quite honestly, waking up to. So instead of giving you how you can support the show, really just go out and educate yourself. Because I still need to educate myself. That's all the information I'm going to give. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Hello, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Aerial Hour. I cannot believe where I'm at right now. I am in Atlanta at Veritcal Joes, and I'm sitting here with Joe, and we're just like hanging out. It's crazy. How you doing, Joe?
What's up? I'm doing great. It is a beautiful day in the dirty South. I'm so happy that you made it.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm super excited that you made it to my happy space, and I'm really excited to get into this interview because you have some really good questions, some things I haven't even thought about. So I'm super excited about talking with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me into the space. So let's start out. Let's start out with this space.
Okay.
How big is this space?
This space is a little under 3,000 square
Wow.
feet. Yep. It is a nice open space. I designed it after aerial studios as opposed to pole dancing studios. So I want the space to stay open and be as flexible as possible to lay it out how I want to lay it out. We have a total of 13 poles in here.
Wow.
We have chrome, we have brass, they're all 45s. We have 16-foot poles, and you know I'm an X-pole snob, so generally they're mostly X-poles in here. And then we have hoops, we have silks, we have hammocks, and then we have a cozy lounge space here, a store, changing room, staff room as well. So this is our professional women's playground.
Yes.
So hopefully when people get off of work, they come and hang out here.
Yeah, and it feels like a professional woman's playground.
Thank
You
you,
walk
friend.
in and it just feels so good to
Thank
be in
you.
here.
I appreciate that.
How long have you been dancing for first?
So dancing, I've been dancing since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I definitely, if YouTube or Instagram existed when I was a kid, I would probably be one of the ones who you put on music and I'm like a baby and I'm dancing around and I'm like on beat and doing something strange.
Yeah.
I've been dancing since I was very, very young. I explored a lot of different types of dances.
Okay.
I've done ballet, tap, point, jazz. I went to school. My high school was a performing arts high school.
Really?
Yeah, so I danced all throughout high school. I was Miss Magnet Dance. My high school was Tri-Cities High School. We definitely thought we were on Fame. So many awesome celebrities have come out of this same school.
Wow.
Outkast, Candy Burris, a lot of dope people come out of this school. So that's where I went to school at. And dancing has just always been a passion of mine since I was very, very young. But pole dancing came into my life around 2005.
2005. What was pole dancing in 2005?
Listen, pole dancing 2005 was something very gray and vague.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, I was an aerobics director at Bally Total Fitness.
Okay.
And you know how the fitness world works. You know, you see what the next fitness trend is, you train on it, you teach it, and you just wait for the next thing to happen. So at the time, Bally was trying to compete because LA Fitness was coming into the scene. And I don't know if you know anything about LA Fitness, but I worked for LA Fitness, and LA Fitness' goal was to have an LA Fitness every 15 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Correct. So there was no way. Bally was like, you know, maybe it would be maybe 5 in Georgia total.
Right.
Bally also had a relationship with Crunch, and Crunch was a big popular gym at the time too. But it was very hard to keep up with LA Fitness, so they said, you know, Joe, we need you to come up with some fresh new programming. So I started coming up with fun stuff they can do. I already taught hip hop there.
Okay.
So I went by the alias of Hip Hop Joe because there was another Joe who was a guy there. So I was Hip Hop Joe.
Okay.
And he was Joe. So I added a class called Dance Around the World, which
Okay.
is kind of like a modern day Zumba. It was different styles of more like ethnic dance.
Okay.
So there was some salsa, there was some African dance in there was some dance hall. I had that in there. Of course, I elevated the hip hop classes there, and
Right.
then I had a class called Cardio Striptease. So Cardio Striptease was inspired by Carmen Electra's aerobic striptease,
Yes.
which was big at the time. So when I started teaching this class, Bally was inside of a racquetball room,
Okay.
where the gym,
Yep.
the cardio dance space was. So there were seats outside of the racquetball room. So when we started doing cardio striptease, people started sitting down and watching a cardio striptease class. And because I had like the clear heels from doing fitness competitions, that's what I used to wear for the class. So, you know, it was like a lot of body waves, a lot of drops, you know,
Okay.
sexy ups,
Yes.
walks, and, you know, just like sensual choreography. And the goal was to remove layers as you dance. So this class started a little uproar at Bally Total Fitness.
Oh.
And people started to try to figure out how I knew how to dance like this. So a rumor started around the gym that I was a stripper. So from this rumor, around this time, stripping was like the thing in Atlanta. You had all kinds of songs like, you know, Fat Joe. I had like Make It Rain and all this stuff. It was an exercise to go to the strip club and spend up all your money.
Yeah.
Okay. So people were obsessed with strip clubs. So it was these housewives who was like, why? Like, what is it about the strip clubs? And they saw me at the gym, and they concluded that I could teach them whatever it was they was doing in the strip clubs.
Okay.
I could teach them how to do it at home.
Okay.
So that's how it all started.
Oh my goodness.
These young ladies rolled up on me and was like, hey, can you teach us how to pole dance? Yeah, and I was like, I don't know how to pole dance, but I heard it's a great workout because, you know, I'm fitness buff. Like none of what I was doing was in any way tuned into any kind of, you know, sensuality or sexuality. I was not like exotic, erotic. I was very young. I hadn't tuned into my sexuality in any kind of way. I was probably one of the people thought I was very exotic and erotic, but I was probably one of the least sexually experienced people that you would ever meet. I just dance like that because of my roots. I just always have danced very sexy because my family is West African, and a lot of the dancing we did when we were younger are fertility dances. So that's just how I moved. I told them I couldn't really help them. They kind of kept bothering me, and they were like, well, we heard you was a stripper and that you could help us. And I was just like, where did you get that from? They're like, the girls in the locker room. I was like, well, I'm not. And I can't help you. So anyway, long story short, they kept asking. And then they were like, hey, we'll pay you. And I was like, wait a minute. all I really heard was money because I was working as an aerobics director. I didn't really get paid much. There was an increase in how much I was paid per class, but all the work that I was doing outside of that really was unpaid. And I taught all around Atlanta, teaching at different gyms, just trying to, you know, make ends meet. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to take them up on this offer, right? So I was like, oh, get the pole and let me see what I can do. So they ended up bringing the pole to the gym, and at the time I had like an '88 Honda Accord, and I opened the trunk, we dropped the seats down, and we slid the pole into the car. I took it home. I put it up incorrectly the first time I put it up, by the way, and ended up coming down like mid trick.
Oh my God!
I was doing something like a sun wheel.
Okay.
And I remember I looked up and it kind of came out of the sky, and it hit the wall, and then I like hit the floor, and I hit my hip, and I was like, damn, so I put it back up properly this time, and I remember being, like sore, after that one, session with myself, and I was like, damn, but I came up with something that I could teach them, and listen. When I linked back up with those girls, and I was like, this is what I came up with, and I taught it to them, they were like, we can't do that. And it took me probably about 4 sessions with them to get them to do what I came up with, like my first ride on the pole.
And do you remember what some of that was?
Yes, I do remember what it was. Because I had the dance background, it was quite a bit of choreography using the pole as a base. More modern terms, I would say, I know I had some body waves in there. I had some drops in there. I clearly remember, though, that I climbed the pole. I flip upside down, so I could invert off top because I was athletic.
Right.
So it was something I naturally did. I remember I climbed the pole. I flipped upside down. I brought myself back right side up, and I dropped into a split.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't see anyone do this. This was something that I naturally did on the pole.
Right. I'm just like, my mind is blown. This is 2005.
This is 2005. This was just what I did.
Right.
Yeah. And I dropped into a split. And I feel like the routine that I remember them actually like having it together, they still couldn't climb upside down and flip and bring themselves right side up, but they could climb and they could drop into a split.
Okay.
I remember it was Khalees had a song. She had a CD with a star on it. I remember that. And I remember when they really started to get into it, we were dancing to that CD. But that was, a little bit of time after because they needed to learn.
Because this is hard.
Yeah, it was actually hard. But I remember going crazy. When you say what was pole dancing at that time, I remember going crazy because I didn't see a lot of pole dancing. I went to the strip club. I went to Magic City. And at Magic City, there were 2 girls that were doing pole. One, her name was Fierce, and the other girl's name was Gigi. And I remember going to Magic City, and I was looking for more stuff. Now, Fierce and Gigi were bomb, but they weren't doing anything that I wasn't already capable of doing for myself. But I will say that they was tearing the club up. Can I cuss?
Yeah, absolutely.
They was fucking the club up.
Yes.
They was fucking the club up, right? And I was like, okay, and it was getting money, and they had some really cute like double tricks that nobody else was doing at the time. And I remember talking to them and saying, who I was and, and what I did or whatever, and them being very receptive. They were super cool. So then I was like, dang, I need more content. So I remember going on MySpace. It was a girl named Tess Taylor. Tess Taylor on MySpace. Tess Taylor's whole page was pictures of her doing pole tricks.
Wow.
She was based out of UK. I started writing her on MySpace, like, how do you do this? How do you do what you do? So I was asking her questions. She was asking me questions. And so she was someone that I started to, like, learn from because she was doing things that I wasn't, doing, off top, for myself.
Right.
She was doing like knee holds and stuff like that. And that wasn't something that naturally I was like, oh, let me do this on the pole.
Right.
So then Carol Helms.
Yeah.
Carol Helms was on YouTube.
Yep.
And this was a little bit after my first start, but I remember following her. I remember learning, like Superman drop. I remember learning that from Carol Helms' page. That wasn't something that I naturally did. I saw her do it, and I learned how to do it from her. Tara Karina.
Yeah.
Tara Karina was on YouTube. She wasn't teaching you nothing. She was dancing in her garage, and you was just like, oh, that's cute. But again, it was like, oh, like it was really no resource.
Right. So
there was a young lady here whose name is Robin. Robin gave me my first set of pole DVDs. She gave me the pole DVDs because she herself, she was like, I can't do none of this shit. And the 2 DVDs she gave me was Fanya and Pantera. And I remember putting my pole up in my garage. Fanya's DVD, most of the stuff she was doing in there, I was already doing. The spins. Of course, it was different variations. My spins weren't as pretty. They was a little ratchet, you know what I mean? But I didn't have any technique, you know? So Fanya, you know, she had been poling, you know, for some time. And I was like, oh, that's pretty. It looks like what I was doing, but it's prettier.
Yeah.
So I started to adapt some of that, but she stumped me with the handspring because I had never done a handspring before. But, you know, after maybe about, you know, 4 or 5 tries, I was able to do it.
Wow.
So I was through that DVD. Pantera's DVD?
Yeah.
Pantera's Pole Tricks 101, baby. That's the DVD that made me.
Wow.
Like, I was stumped. Like, so I saw Tess Taylor doing the knee hold, but I didn't know how she did it.
Okay.
Not that Pantera's DVD explained anything. You had to get your life. Pantera is such an amazing teacher now, but when she did that DVD, somebody else was in charge of that because there was no instruction. It was 2 arrows, like put your leg here and here, cross your ankles, take your hands off. I was like, wait, first of all, you did a side climb. I don't side climb. Second of all, what's the leverage? What's the push-pull? What are my points of contact? Like, it was not broken down.
Right.
So the brass monkey was in there. The death lay was in there. She didn't teach the jade, but the jade was in her demo prior to it. Her inverted version of like a handstand spin was in there.
Yep.
Kick-up splits was in there. All the things that have been evolved into amazing tricks was in this DVD.
Wow.
So once I did that DVD, I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing now. Because once I combined that with the stuff that I naturally did, you know, I was in there. So I feel like those are the things that kind of comprise my initial like pole training, and those were the resources that I had. But the key for me was because I had a fitness background and I had these extensive certifications on trainings, I was able to say, okay, well, this is the trick. What steps do I need to take to train someone to learn how to do these tricks? And that's what ended up being my edge, because I was able to teach anyone how to do these tricks before there were certifications and different things to help you with it. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure just the adaptability that your body had made it so easy.
Absolutely.
Not easy. I'm sure it was still
it was still challenging.
Very difficult.
I did not have the obstacles that people have today. I was you know, in my early 20s. I was an athlete. I was a fitness expert. I was a dance expert. It was not difficult for me. To learn it.
How long before you decided to open your own space, and what made you decide to open that?
Okay, so all of this stuff was 2005, 2006, somewhere up in there. I didn't launch Veritcal Joes until 2009, 2010.
Yes.
What made me launch my studio, honestly, I never wanted a studio at all. I thought it was a lot of responsibility. I thought it was a lot of stress. And it is. But I was kind of forced to, because one of the companies that I was teaching for, they wanted me to be exclusive with them, and it wasn't something I was willing to do. So they ended up not giving me like any more work with the company, and that's what ended up kind of pushing me to open my own space. It was unfortunate, but it forced me to grow up, and you know, I'm thankful for them for that now. So leading up into that, I was working at Bally, and Bally was like my home for everything that I was doing. And I said, Bally, like, listen, I need to do some pole classes. And Bally was like, whoa, we asked for fresh new programming, but that's a little too much. So Bally was like, we can't do it. I was teaching at so many other spaces at the time. I ended up asking this one studio, like, can I set up poles here? And they was like, we don't know anything about poles, but you are welcome to rent the space and do what it is you want to do in it. So I ended up purchasing poles, and I set up shop inside of this studio. So I started a pole program called 6 Weeks to Sexy.
Wow.
And it was exactly that, 6 weeks to to sexiness,
Yeah.
you know? And it was a progressive class. You train once a week for 6 weeks. And then, you know, there was a mini recital, you know, at the end.
Yeah.
So the first recital, it was just, you know, the clients.
Yeah.
The second recital, they were like, well, you know, can we bring like a friend or someone to come and watch the show? And I was like, yeah, we can totally do that. And I remember the studio saying, like, Joe, it's a line outside. And I was like, a line outside for what? And they was like, well, whatever y'all have going on, it's a line outside. And people had invited their, I said one friend. People had their coworker, their boyfriend. It was literally a line, you know, around the building.
Yeah.
With people coming to see the girls from 6 Weeks to Sexy do a
Right.
class. So from there, it ended up being where the studio that I was at ended up saying, you know what is it going to take for our clients to be able to do your classes? And, you know, I was like, well, we're going to need more poles. We're going to need this. We're going to need that. And they were like, okay, let's do it. And that's how everything kind of started.
Okay.
So my initial company was called Atlanta Pole Dance. It's called APD.
Okay.
We had little outfits like the policemen and everything. So it's called APD. And that's how we started.
Oh, I love
and
that.
at the time, that studio that gave me a chance when nobody else would give me a chance is called Dance 411. So I launched Pole Dance 411, which is what it's called now. But I was the founder of their pole program. I created their entire program.
Wow.
And when I left, they still have 6 Weeks to Sexy, 6
Wow.
Weeks to Sexier. It's years later, and the program is still thriving off of a lot of the original content. I started their pole shows. Everything that is the culture of their program is still there, and the program is still thriving. From there, we launched classes at a place called Hoops, which was a gym. Hoops is not open anymore, but we launched their program. There's a young lady named Camille who has Cameo Studios. We launched her classes. She's a big time skater now. So she's like a world famous, like every music video, a TV show contacts her for skating. She's like the sexiest skater. Imagine like a pole dancer who's gone into skating.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
So we launched her studio. It's a studio here they used to be called, well, they're called Pole Waxers University, but they were the company that I actually got poles from initially.
Okay.
They used to be called Stinky Pinky Poles.
Aww.
And then they ended up being hardcore poles, and then
Okay.
they turned into pole waxers. But their initial program, we started their program, we staffed their company.
Wow.
So yeah, APD's goal was to launch studios throughout Atlanta.
Okay.
And the girls trained under me, and then they taught in multiple places.
Okay. Question.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you
Okay.
off. How did you decide to do that? Like, instead of launching your own studio, because I know you said you didn't want to do it.
I didn't want a studio.
Right. So how were you like, okay, I know I'm good at this. I'm good at programming. How did that happen?
Well, people wanted pole.
Okay.
And they wanted me to teach pole where they were,
Right.
but I couldn't be everywhere.
Right.
So it was just natural for me to say, you know what? I have bomb clients. I have bomb students. Let me take the best that I have and teach them to teach exactly like me.
Okay.
Like I was like, this is what I say.
Okay.
This is how I do it. Now you're gonna mimic me
Right.
in your own words.
Right.
That way no one can say, oh, when Joe taught it to me, it was like this.
Right,
But
right.
when you taught it to me, it was like that.
Right,
You
that
know what I mean?
consistency.
Yeah. So that's how
So you were kind of acting as like a consultant going through.
I was.
Yeah.
And I had no idea.
That's
I had no
amazing.
idea. I just knew what pole was doing for me and those housewives.
Right.
And I just wanted to spread it everywhere.
Okay.
And it was paying me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I went from making pennies, and not to say that I was rich, but I was in my 20s.
Right.
And I didn't have much.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
But in 2005, my stepfather passed away, right?
Yeah.
And it came on me to take care of my family. And that's when I had that shift, and I was taking care of my family off of this money that I was making from this pole stuff.
Wow.
Right? So I had the girls teaching, and then I ended up getting booked for Real Housewives of Atlanta. So I taught on Real Housewives of Atlanta. I did a slew of other like TV type appearances and like blog type appearances, but Housewives was the biggest one. And then I ended up getting booked to tour with Lil Wayne.
Wow.
Yeah, because there was a local artist who he ended up blowing up more like overseas and things like that. But at the time he was local. His name was Jay Harden. He had a song called Work That Pole. That pole in the lobby that I just showed you was the pole that I used to travel with.
Wow.
And we toured all around Atlanta, surrounding places. He had a song called Work That Pole, and I would work that pole while he sang Work That Pole. So because of him, I met so many different people.
Okay.
And at one of our biggest like shows, probably has like a ton of views on YouTube and all this stuff. One of the biggest shows, I was hanging upside down. We put a closed cigarette in my mouth, and he lights the cigarette, and I start doing my little signature Fiyastarta pole trick while smoking, on the pole or whatever.
Dopest thing ever.
Yeah, thank you, friend.
Yes.
So at that show, there was a young lady who I went to high school with who was in the audience and saw me perform, who was signed with Young Money.
Okay.
And she came to me and she said, she was like, that was dope. She said, Wayne is looking for a pole dancer for one of our shows at our tour. So it was supposed to be one show at first. I flew out, performed in this one show, and there was a backup dancer who ended up not showing up for the show.
Oh, wow.
So they had a spot for a backup dancer as well, and they were like, do you want to stay on the tour? So I ended up learning the choreography from the backup dancer, and then I had my own feature in the show, pole dancing. But this changed everything back home because now I wasn't teaching at all.
Okay.
So my team of instructors took over all of the classes that I was teaching. So
oh man, it set you up perfectly.
Yeah. So
wow.
I had a team, and I ended up shifting from before the studios paid me and I paid the team. I didn't know how to manage business that way.
Right.
So I was like, okay, studios, here's the contacts for the instructors. Y'all are going to deal directly. And that's when everything kind of like popped off.
Okay.
But it also kind of unraveled because the studio started having a preference over what instructors they wanted to teach in their space, as opposed to accepting the instructors that we sent them based on availability and convenience.
Right.
So by the time I got back, the instructors were like, you got to do something. Like the studios are, they're kind of fighting over the instructors, or they want us to be exclusive. They had already started having people sign non-compete agreements and stuff like that. And I was like, how? Like, not to be like, funny, but in my mind, I was like, I started your program. Like, you didn't even have a base for pole.
Right.
And we brought it to you. How can you think it's okay to do this? And so the instructors were the ones who pushed me and was like, we need our own space. If we had our own space, we all could just teach there. You see what I'm saying? So then I still didn't want to do it. I started kind of looking for spaces, but not really looking for spaces. But the place that was my home studio, when I came back from tour, they asked me to be exclusive with them. Okay. And I was like, I can't. Right. My business depends on me teaching at multiple places. Right. So from there, like, I noticed that my class load was smaller. They weren't really calling me like that anymore. So I wasn't making as much money. Right. So I had to launch my own space. Okay. So that's how Veritcal Joe started. Wow. So as soon as I opened my own space, in fact, we were teaching at a club for a long time. Wow. With like 3 poles. People would wait patiently on the side, waiting their turn to come up and get on the pole.
Listen, you people that complain about sharing a pole,
we
listen
had 3
to this.
poles, whole class, people would wait patiently for their turn, come up to the stage. We had stations with multiple instructors, and then it was like, all right, it's time. I ended up launching my own studio, and all the instructors who were teaching across Atlanta at different studios came to teach me.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how Veritcal Joe started.
And when you started looking for that first spot, what things were important for you to find in that first space?
Well, for me, I was just looking for space. I knew I wanted to be downtown. I knew I wanted to be in Midtown. I knew I wanted... The space that I was in only had 8-foot ceilings. Yeah. We did so much with 8-foot. It was actually 9-foot ceilings, but the space to the rig was 8 feet.
Right,
And then
right.
to the actual ceiling was 9 feet. So I knew I wanted a bit of taller ceilings, but at the time, remember the X pole was not like a
Right.
thing yet. So ceilings weren't that tall. So I was
Right.
looking for a space that maybe had 10 to 12 foot ceilings. I just knew I wanted just a dance space. My ambitions were not that high, at first, because it was just like, I just need a space and I need a space now.
Right.
But I had been at a club, and that club was called Central Station. I had been to a club called Central Station, and I was just like, okay, I need something along those lines. I ended up settling in more close to the airport, because at the time the person that I was dating had real estate in that space. And it was actually an old church. So it had lots of space, and it had a stage inside of it.
That's so cool.
So my first studio had a very small pole room that had 7 poles in there. And then there was like a lobby space, there was a bathroom, and then there was an open area that we used for the dance space, and it had a stage with poles in it. And it was kind of more along the lines of, that space was empty and they owned it, and it was like, well, why are you going to go pay a stranger for a space when you have, a friend, or someone that you can trust, or someone that you love, that you can set up shop inside of this space?
Right.
And why not, contribute to the growth of this business?
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up starting.
So did you always start out by offering pole and other fitness classes, or was it just strictly pole at
When
first?
I first started, it was mostly pole. Because you got to remember, we already had a following for pole.
Right.
And all of my instructors had a following for pole.
Right.
So I ended up saying, we're going to do pole.
Yeah.
And I already, the thing was, when I left the old space, I gave them 6 weeks to sexy. So I had to launch a whole nother program.
So how did you do that? Because I'm guessing so we're talking, the grand opening of Veritcal Joes was February 6, 2010. So we're still talking pre-pole going, kind of mainstream.
Right.
I think around 2012, there was the
surge. Yeah. Well, my thing was, I was an aerobics director at first. That's what I do.
Right.
I create programs. I create fresh content. So I knew I had to create something that the clients that are coming from there would be interested in. But I also had to create everything that the place that I was at before wouldn't let me do. Now I could do it.
Yeah.
Like on a daily basis, I would beg them, we only need 2 people to a pole.
Right.
And I would get to the class, it would be 4 people to a pole.
Oh my gosh.
I was teaching drop-in classes with 8 poles with 40 people in the class.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's
I had a
sketchy.
I'm telling you, but I had a system.
Right.
I would
I'm
keep
sure.
everybody busy.
Right.
I had 2 to a pole. I had rotations.
Wow.
And I had trained the instructors on that.
Right.
So the first thing I said was, we're gonna have no pole sharing. That was the first thing that I went for. No pole sharing. 1. 2, there were no spinning poles at the space I was at.
Okay.
Spinning pole. And I tried to get them to get into it. They wasn't into it. I said, boom, we're going to have static poles and we're going to have spinning poles. The ceilings were only 9 feet tall. I said, we're going to make sure we have tall poles.
Were the combination poles a thing at that point, like the spinny and static?
Not here.
Not here.
You had to be up on game to get that.
Right,
Not
right.
here.
Okay.
And even if you visit the strip clubs and stuff here, there are not spinning poles in the strip clubs, and most of the pole studios here do not have spinning poles. A lot of the newer pole studios here, the owners are products of Veritcal Joes. So they have static and spinning poles, but the ones that are not still may be static pole only. So I knew that we needed those things. And then it was hard to create levels. Like if you were like, oh, well, I only need the people that can climb to do this class, or the people that can do this to do this class. I couldn't get those rules enforced. Where I was at in these other places. So now we created graduation programs that were real. It was like, hey, we have these classes that you can take until you can cross this threshold. And then you can do these classes. You know what I mean? And then before, we used to rent spaces to do shows. We actually kicked off doing shows in Atlanta, pole shows in Atlanta, but we were doing venues. And because I had a status, said we're gonna do our shows here. So I think when we started, I created fresh programming. I had a space for people who were established pole artists to go. They could do a test in, which we call demos now, but they could do a test in for class placement to skip the beginner stuff.
Yeah.
And then we had all of the clients start in one place and work their way up. So it's almost like a levels program. Through drop-ins.
Wow.
And nobody was doing that at the time.
No.
Yeah, so when people found out that that was a thing that they could do, people were coming to it. Then it was also like, oh, this person was just touring with Lil Wayne. By this time now, the Housewives started to pop.
Right.
Like Housewives of Atlanta is still the Housewives' strongest franchise.
Yeah, definitely.
So once it was like, oh, that's the girl that did that, people were looking, for me. So that's kind of like, and
social media is becoming a thing.
Social media was becoming a thing. And then I had the instructors from all around Atlanta all there. So people were following them.
Right.
And then you had people following me.
Yeah.
So that was the success of Veritcal Joes when we first opened.
Yeah.
We just had it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I didn't know what it was, but as soon as we opened our doors, we had people. The classes were filled, and at the time, I didn't know how. I don't have any background in business, any background in marketing. I went to school for 2 years. I got an associate degree. I don't have some kind of big time, bachelor's degree or master's degree. I don't know how it was happening, but it was happening.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds step by step. Like it really was, you just put one foot in front of the other and took it as it came. Initially, you said when you took like your best students and made them your instructors. What things made them your best students? Because I'm sure it wasn't just about pole tricks and what you can do.
Oh my goodness. I will say I had some badass teachers off top because they were badass students. So things that stuck out to me were consistency. Like you had the clients that showed up, on time for class. They paid attention to detail. They were dressed appropriately. They were friendly students. Like they were always like very nice to other people in the class. And we had pole sharing. Like, so they were never like, it's my turn. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Like they would share. But then like, there was like a vision for me of if I was like building a team, I wanted some kind of like a dream team. And I realized that when I started to pick these students up, they had all of these elements of being like relatable, of being detailed, having their own style. They needed their own style. They didn't need to try to be a version of me.
No.
They needed their own style. But I remember one of my first instructors, her name is Showcase. And we named her Showcase. Her name used to be Scorpio, but we named her Showcase because anytime that she would do anything on a pole, it looked like she was putting on a show.
Wow.
Like all the eyes would go to her. But I remember Showcase was in the overflow class. So my class used to get so packed that there would be an overflow. So in the overflow, I had one of my like apprentice instructors teaching. And this was before I started like, actually like handpicking, people kind of thing. And she went to the apprentice instructor. And she came to me after the class and she said, she taught me this move. And she was like, I want to make sure she taught it to me right. Yeah. And she did it. And I was like, well, actually, it should be like this. And I corrected it. And she was like, I just wanted to make sure. So she didn't take anything away from that instructor, but she wanted to make sure that her shit was tight. So that stuck out to me.
Yeah.
So all of those people that I ended up recruiting, they had something about them that was very magnetic, in their attitude, but they were like very friendly, paid attention to detail. And then I made it a point to recruit people that were not like thirsty. You know what I mean? These women had their own money.
Yep.
They had careers already. They're not doing this for the money. They were doing it for the culture because they love to dance and they love what it did for other people. You know what I mean? I remember one of my instructors, she before she became instructor, she was a student. And she was in the overflow class. And they thought that she did not pay for the class. And they pulled her out of class, and they was like, you didn't pay this, and this. And she was like, listen, she was like, I make 6 figures. She was like, I don't got a reason to steal from you. You know what I mean? And they end up fixing the problem, but that stuck with me, that she was like, bitch, what? Like, I'm balling.
Right.
Like, I don't have to steal from you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not pressed.
Yeah.
So the team that I recruited had their own style. They had magnetic personalities. They were kind to other people. And they were already established boss type women. So they didn't do it for the money.
Right.
They did it because they were helping people feel good about themselves.
Right. There's nothing better than seeing somebody do something that they thought that they couldn't do.
Exactly.
That's everything.
Exactly.
Did you do a lot of like intensive training with them?
You know,
or I'm sure it sounds like they were already.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing at first. I didn't know what I was doing. I remember I had some auditions.
Okay.
I had some auditions and I was like, teach me how to do, whatever the trick was. And it was funny because everybody kind of came up and, like did this runaround explanation of what they was doing. And I was like, that ain't it. Showcase got up there and Showcase did exactly what I did. She said exactly what I said. And I asked her why she did it. And she was like, well, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. She was like, I'm just going to say what you say.
Right.
And then it hit me. I was like, oh, well, what do I say? So I took every move and I wrote down my approach to teaching it. And then I did an instructor's training where I created my own certification and I broke down each move and what the key things were they needed to say to make it our version of it, and then the other stuff they were able to make it their own.
Jesus, what year was this? This is mind-blowing.
This was 2008.
Oh my gosh.
This was 2008. So I created my own training program because I had to make sure that they were doing the same thing.
Right.
But that's where it came from.
Right.
Like, once I realized that the reason why in Showcase at that audition, she wasn't even trying to get on as a teacher. She came as moral support to someone else.
Aww.
But when she did that, I was like, what made you do that? And then I was like, wow. And that's when I realized what I need to do.
Right.
Because that was the difference. Like all the other trainings that I've done, like if you taught, like Zumba doesn't say this, do that. They give you a guide and you do whatever it is you want to do. You know what I mean? But when she said, when you teach us the BAM, you do a sound effect and you straddle your legs and you give us levels and you clap when we get done.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't even realize I was doing that.
Okay.
So once that happened,
Right.
I laid out
Wow.
everyone to do it the way that I was doing it so that no one could say, well, you didn't tell me all the things that Joe would have told me.
Right.
Because that was the thing, like when I launched Veritcal Joes, I didn't stop traveling or teaching. Like that was.
Well, you didn't have to. You had already done the groundwork.
Right. And I didn't know it. Right.
Yeah.
But people would get there and say, you know what, like I'm getting the same quality instruction because I made sure that the instructors taught it a specific way. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then one thing that I made it a point to do was I wanted all of my instructors to not be in my shadow in any kind of way. I wanted everybody to have their own brand and their own fan base. So I started to really encourage their own branding.
How did you do that? How did you encourage a brand?
Well, so VJs is a bit like a school.
Right.
Where you have your like core classes. So the core classes are the things that are taught and structured in the VJ way, which comes from the Fiyastarta way. Yeah. Basically, that you're gonna get this exactly the same way and everyone's trained that way. But everybody has their own gift. Yeah. I don't want a bunch of people that are like trying to be versions of me. Yeah. I want people to show who they are and what they are. So we basically we basically gave everybody an opportunity to develop their own niche.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay.
So literally it was like when you audition to be an instructor, of course this is after the fact, but when you audition to be an instructor, there was like a little questionnaire, and it was like, what's different about you? If you could create your own class, what would it be? What would it include? Who would it target? What would you teach? So they didn't really know, but that was them building their own thing. So if they presented something that we didn't already have a curriculum for, because now we have a curriculum for so many things. Like you're like, I want to teach like I had an instructor more recently who was like, I want to do something catered towards the guys. And it's like, well, we already got a curriculum for men's pole. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we can reinvent the marketing strategy for it, or the approach to it, or the levels for it. You know what I mean? But at the time, it was like, well, what are you bringing to the table? Like I remember Royale. Royale is the innovator between our Vertically Voluptuous program.
Okay.
And at first, she didn't think she was bringing anything to the table at Veritcal Joe. She was like, everybody can do all these tricks. Everybody can do this, can do that. She was like, I don't have anything to offer. And then, she was forced to do this. You got to come up with something.
Yeah.
You got to be your own person here.
Yeah.
You can't just be here. And she ended up saying, I think I want something that's geared towards women who look like me. You know what I mean? And she called it was like Pole Plus at the time, which is like plus size.
Right.
And I was like, nah. I was like, we're going to call that Vertically Voluptuous. Like, I was good with names. I was good with descriptions and stuff like that. And we started to kind of play around with it. Royale was my student. So I noticed that, when we'd be doing certain things like laybacks, she might have done her laybacks differently or her inverse differently. She had titties in the way.
Right.
She had belly in the
Yeah.
way. And she was like, your body's not set up like mine. I need to hold the pole like this. I need to do this. And I had to say, okay.
Yeah.
And then it was like, now that we're teaching people that look like you, I know how to approach that, and you know how to approach that. So it just became a thing. Everybody came to the table with the understanding that you got this core stuff, but at some point, you gotta be your own person. You know what I mean? And who is that person? What are you bringing to the table? How can our brand support you? And how can your brand support us? So but it was always like that. I just didn't know.
Right.
It was like that.
I really appreciate that evolution of encouraging people to be themselves and giving them a space to become themselves. I know when I came in to dancing, I was not myself.
Right.
I didn't know how to be myself.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't.
And these type of environments are what made it safe for me too. And I love all the different types of classes. I remember seeing Royale, she went viral.
She went viral. Stupid viral.
Amazing. That blows my mind that she thought that she had nothing to offer.
She thought she had nothing.
Representation is everything.
Everything.
And it's so important. We're such a diverse community. It has to be covered.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Just
and
amazing.
And that was 2013. I think that Vertical Voluptuous went live in 2014. And now there are Curvy Girl programs everywhere.
There's Curvy Girl competitions.
Absolutely.
And thank goodness.
Absolutely.
Thank goodness.
But I have her to thank. Who that?
Yep.
Hold on, friend. We got Wildcat in the building.
Hello.
Wildcat, come here. Actually, Wildcat was who I was just talking about. She wants to launch the men's pole program. Come here.
Hi. Yeah.
Wildcat, come here. We got some questions for you.
Yes.
Real quick, like.
Yes. Sit down. Join us.
Wildcat, tell us your profession.
Nursing.
Nursing. What type of nursing?
Trauma.
Trauma? Wow.
Yes.
Thank you for what you do. Seriously. How long have you been an instructor here?
I'm not sure. I don't remember.
You're a trauma nurse. That's not where you're at right now. What?
Wildcat.
Yeah.
Wildcat. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You're good.
Okay, so Wildcat, she doesn't know how long she's been an instructor here because her start date is a bit fuzzy and undetermined. She was one of the ones that came over with me from the old school before I launched Veritcal Joes.
Wow.
And her colleagues, it was 3 of her colleagues, the headliner, Rocky Stacks, and Apple Bottoms that were her pole sisters that all got certified and started teaching at Veritcal Joes together when I launched. But Wildcat was in the pole closet. Wildcat is still in the pole closet. So she didn't come on as an instructor, but she just came as a student. And then slowly she ended up morphing into an instructor. And Rocky Stacks, Headliner, and Apple Bottoms are all retired now.
Wow.
And Wildcat is actively teaching.
Woohoo.
So it is a bit foggy when her start dates
Yeah.
were.
So you've been around since the beginning.
I've been around, but I also left for a while. So I've taken multiple breaks.
Right.
So
Yeah. What do you love about teaching here?
it lets you, I guess it gives you an opportunity to figure out, how to break down situations to different people. So you can always figure out how to show someone how to do something, different body types and different levels of knowledge. Yeah.
I like that.
Why have you recently started to do media? And why do you want to do a men's pole program?
Yeah. Yeah. Why is a men's pole program?
What made you find your niche here?
Why did I decide to start doing media? There needs to be a balance between obviously work and personal life, and it hasn't been there. So I decided to kind of, spread my wings, be a little more free. So that's why I feel like, and then I got a little more serious about pole. It was kind of like, oh, I like it. And now it's like, so I can say I've been polling for a while, but when I started really polling, it's probably been a year.
What?
To be serious.
Yeah,
like,
right.
for real.
But like training, hardcore training.
Like
So,
she teaches, but
okay.
it's like she's teaching the core classes here.
Okay.
But she hasn't developed herself as
Yeah.
a pole artist.
Yeah.
So I'm still working on that part, but it's kind of like I would actually like to combine some kind of pole and healthcare, like something with health and wellness and pole together. But I also like the men is different. It's just like, as far as strength, I like more core. Mm-hmm. So, you can see like men are naturally stronger. And then also it's just different as far as body ergonomics. They're like totally different as far as things are concerned. So it's more of a challenge.
Yeah. I like that. You like a challenge. Well, obviously you're a trauma nurse. Yeah.
Wildcat will work for like 34 hours.
Wow.
And show up here and be like, I work for 34 hours. I'm going to teach a party and then I'm going to go home and go to sleep.
That's a nurse.
Yeah.
My mom's a nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys just do the most amazing jobs. And to be able to come into a place like this, I'm sure it's a break,
Yes.
Just an escape, like,
Yeah.
a different world. Thank you.
Yay. Anything you want to say to the people?
Yeah.
Anything you want to say to the people? Wildcat, get your shout out. This is a podcast. They can
Yes.
see you. They
Yes.
can see you.
They can't see you. You guys help
I
us.
was going to say, so you won't see me. You probably will never see my face on media until I'm completely transitioned over. But if you want to come check me out at Veritcal Joes, you need to come to the studio.
Yes.
Yay.
Come on. Thanks. Thanks for joining us.
All right.
That was dope.
That was
So
random.
Awesome.
Real random.
So I think we were talking about once you started Veritcal Joes.
Yeah.
So we're in 2010.
Okay.
You have your grand opening.
Yes.
Your classes are full.
Yes.
You're offering mainly pole classes at this point.
Mainly pole classes, and then we are offering some dance fitness classes. They were lap dance classes, Zumba classes. We're offering stiletto classes. We're offering stretch classes. I have a Pilates brand at the time that was called Joe Lottie's. So we were offering that as well. So yeah, because remember, dance and fitness was always a thing for me.
Right.
So I always wanted to make sure we struck that balance.
Right.
But I didn't want to teach all of the classes, so I stuck with things that I could allow other people to teach and I wouldn't have to manage.
Right. That makes sense. And how long was it before you moved into your second space? Because I think you mentioned that you have moved a couple of times.
Ooh, yes. I want to say that I was actually in our initial space for probably like a year and maybe 2 years.
Did you outgrow it or what?
It was further south.
Okay.
It was further south, and it was hard to get people in the classes earlier.
Yeah.
So location, you know, was like a thing.
Right.
So it was like, you wanted more of a convenient location as well. And then, like I said, my friend also owned the space. You know, we weren't meshing like that, so it was better for me to transition to another space.
Okay.
So I still didn't know what that was, but remember, I always wanted to be in Midtown, but I didn't know exactly where.
Okay.
By this time as well, I had gotten myself like, you know, like a house and like a new car.
Yeah.
So once that kind of all settled, I was like, I need to find a home for the studio.
Yeah.
So the funny thing is, as we transitioned, we had a space that we were in temporarily that was the old studio that I used to be in.
Okay.
So the old studios that I used to rent, they ended up moving.
Oh, wow.
So the space was vacant. Crazy.
That's so crazy.
It was crazy.
Weird.
Really weird. So I was in that space temporarily, but remember, you can't go from a 12-foot ceiling to like a 9-foot ceiling. So I ended up transitioning out of that space quickly, and we found a space in Midtown.
Okay.
So one thing about Atlanta, as in a lot of places, there's a lot of regentrification.
Right.
So you have spaces that go from being nothing to everything.
Yeah.
So in Atlanta, the inner city used to be the hood.
Yeah.
Like you, after you left work 9 to 5, you wasn't trying to be downtown because you might get fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So this is where people started to want to take like Midtown back.
Okay.
So we ended up moving into a space in Midtown that was up and coming.
Okay.
And I moved into the space. There was a dance space upstairs, so I looked up and found a space that already had a dance space upstairs.
Nice.
It had a mid-level and a lower level, so that's what we ended up moving into. So we were in that space, I want to say 2014, somewhere in there. When we ended up leaving that space, the area ended up blowing up.
Okay.
The landlord got bought out.
Wow.
They were not renewing any leases. Everybody was month to month, and then they hit us with, everybody had 60 days to move out because we got bought out. So we ended up moving into another space. So I want to say that space was 3,000 square feet of usable space.
Okay.
But it was actually 3,224 square feet. We ended up having to move to a space that was 1,650 square feet.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So
That was my crunch.
Yeah.
That was my crunch. I want to say we might have been at was that maybe like our 5-year mark, somewhere in there?
Okay, yep.
I thought it was time to wrap it on up. You know, I thought that was a sign. I was like, oh, no, this isn't it. Because you think about it, we first started at the club.
Right.
Then we were on the south side in Hateville. Then we were in the old space, which was off of Moreland Avenue. Then we were in this space, which was Traybert Avenue. When we moved into this very small space, I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
It was, all the other spaces that I moved into as well already had rooms. Remember the old space? The first space was a club, so it already was laid out. The second space was a church, so it already had rooms. It already had stuff laid out. The other space was an old dance studio, so it was already laid out.
Right.
When I moved to the space with the 3 levels, it was an old dance studio.
Right.
It was already laid out. I walked to the space. It was just open space. I couldn't see it. I couldn't do it. And, you know, I was like, the girls pushed me to go with this space because I thought it was a sign to go ahead and let it go.
Wow.
So I went into the space. And I was like, it's too small. I went into our old studio and I measured with a measuring tape every room. And when I actually measured our usable space, because we had a bunch of fluff space, like lounge space, sit space. When I measured the space that we're actually pole dancing in, that we actually had reception, we're actually dancing in, it all actually could fit into the 1,650 square feet. But I still didn't know how it would work out.
Right.
So I remember I ended up putting money down that I didn't have, that one of the instructors ended up helping me come up with a strategic plan to have our own version of a GoFundMe. Okay. And then I took up a really bad loan, one of those like loans that it's like you're going to give your right organ a paying this off, you know, kind of loan. But I took it to come up with the remaining balance for the build out of the studio. And I remember I went into the space and I was sitting on the floor and I was crying because I couldn't see it. I'd never built anything from scratch.
Right.
So I was crying. and I came up with a little diagram of the space. And it was this little red ball in the window. And I couldn't really see what the red ball was. And I went to look, and it was a bird. It was a bird that was perched out on a tree. It was asleep because his face was like in his chest. And it was like a little red bird. I took a picture of the red bird, and I didn't think anything of it. I posted on Instagram and Facebook, and I was like, look at this little bird. I was like, what kind of bird is it? And then people were like, oh my God, that's a cardinal.
Wow.
And they were like, cardinals mean this, cardinal means that. And it was all this inspiration between seeing a cardinal and what it means. And I was like, word. So no lie, that entire week, every time I came into this space, that cardinal was in the window. It wasn't awake or anything like that. I came up with a diagram, and it was perfect. I knew exactly how I was gonna fit the poles in. I knew where the dance room was gonna be. I knew where the lobby was gonna be. And my neighbor, I ended up speaking with my neighbor about overflow space. And they were like, oh, you can use this space anytime you want. I'll only charge you this, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, can I get it consistently on these days at this time? And they were like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Boom. So we're doing X, Y, and Z class. You just go next door.
Nice.
It was perfect. And once I got that diagram together and I showed it to the builder, and they looked at the space and they was like, oh, this is brilliant. Like, this will totally work. I came back into the studio, the bird was gone.
Wow.
The bird was gone. Like, no, and very few people know about me and this damn cardinal. Like, I don't think I've ever even really talked about the cardinal, but the cardinal was gone. I still have the picture of the cardinal, but it was gone. You know what I'm saying?
What a beautiful story.
Crazy. And from there, we were able to build out that space.
Wow.
We built out that space, and we still knew it was small, but we were able to work with the overflow. And I loved it because I was paying rent for one thing, and then I was using the extra space only when I needed it. So it allowed me to like grow my space.
Right.
So then you give it a few years, and my neighbor whose overflow space I was using ended up moving into their own building.
Okay.
And this space was open.
Okay.
Yeah. So for a minute, I straddled both the spaces, and then I eventually ended up moving into this space. And this space is just a bigger version of the space that I had laid out in the small space.
Okay, so then you already had an idea of how you could set it up.
It was, yeah, if you think about it, the 1,650 square feet fits into this 3,000 square foot space. Every room in here is just a bigger version of the room that was over there.
Okay, and so then you could even be like, I can handle this space.
Absolutely.
I've done this size space before.
I knew exactly what to do.
Yeah.
I knew how to do build out. I knew what it took to go from scratch. I had never built anything from scratch before.
Step. It's so crazy.
Yeah, and that's why I say that when I do my dream studio, it'll be this space, but it'll be 2 levels.
Yeah.
Because all the things that I want to encompass into the studio is a version of this, but just with 2 levels, because I would put all the other things that I want to add in upstairs.
Oh, I love it.
But it was insane. But I thought it was time to throw in the towel. Because no lie, and a lot of people won't say this, but I will say like those kind of, issues and stuff, like, it did a lot of things. Like, it fucked up my credit, it made me feel like I needed to find another, avenue to make money.
Right.
It made me feel like I wasn't gonna survive it.
Right.
And then it was like, oh, okay, I can survive this. I can manage this. I can fix my credit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like as soon as you keep moving, next thing you know, people are offering you credit cards again and doing this or doing that.
You put it out there and it comes right back.
It just really helps you like get your shit together as a business owner and stop winging it and actually making a plan and having a vision and knowing what direction you're going instead of things leading you.
Right, right. And that takes time.
It takes time.
Definitely takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're up to like what, 2017, 2016. At what point did you we're sitting in Veritcal Joe's headquarters.
Yes.
There's also a second studio now.
Yes.
Oh, yes. That one.
I no lie, sometimes forget that we have a second location. No lie.
When did you decide to open up the second location and why?
Okay, so we launched the second location in June of last year. It was actually on my vision board to launch in 2020.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
6 months there? No, like a year and 6 months.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I'm early. I'm early. I launched it because the need was there, the opportunity was there, and I have to stop being scared.
How did you know that the need was there? And what did you have to stop being scared of?
I knew the need was there because we have clients that have expressed how far they travel to come out to Veritcal Joes. And then it was like, oh, well, you know, we only got one location, so you either, you know, come or you don't come, you know, kind of thing. And then, you know, we noticed that studios were opening up in other areas and people were going there out of convenience.
Right.
Like they're writing us like, I would so rather be there, but this is convenient.
Yeah, right.
And it was like, wow, it's, you know, it's in the plan anyway, but I'm just not ready to do it yet.
What were you afraid of?
Failing.
Yeah.
Failing.
It's a lot to handle.
Yeah.
I mean, one studio is a lot.
I used to be fearless about business stuff. And right before the non-renewal of the leases and the 60 days to get out, I attempted to launch a second space.
Okay.
I attempted to launch a second space. I did it off of a referral of a friend. I wasn't as thorough a business owner as I am now.
Right.
So I didn't really check into the referral. I gave this person my money to sublease from them. And I moved into, I hired a whole new lump of staff to teach at this new space. I ordered a whole new lump of equipment to teach this new space.
Yeah.
And I got there, and the day that I moved in, the lights got cut off.
Oh my God.
And I did not know why the lights were off, but long story short, this person was not paying their bills, and the entire strip mall that this was in had filed bankruptcy.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I was hurt. Yeah.
I became a very low risk, because you noticed before it was like, I would take a payday loan. I would take you giving away $10,000 in capital? I'll take it, blah, blah. Because let me tell you, the number of times I've done capital loans and paid that shit back was like I was doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But then I got 60 days to move out. I got this space that I'm not going to be able to launch because of this, and that other. And then I ran into, now I've taken this loan out that I can't pay back. That's going to destroy my credit. And I'm going to have to rebuild it all. So I became afraid.
Yeah.
I became a fearful business person. So now everything was like super calculated. Like it has to make sense. It can't do this. It can't do that. So I was afraid.
So how did you overcome that?
Well, planning.
Okay. What did you plan?
I actually, for a long time, never had a business plan. I never had a business plan. I never had a marketing plan. I never had a actual plan for the studio and its growth. I didn't have a 5-year plan. I didn't have a 10-year plan. I started fucking planning. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I started planning, your moves started to make sense. Because remember, I never wanted a studio.
Right.
I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I was enjoying my 20s.
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Like 2009, I was 29.
Yeah.
When the studio launched, I was 30.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? I got my house and my car when I was 28. I got my studio when I was 29. I did not know what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah.
But I was just doing it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So around that, something happens in the mid-30s.
Oh, yeah.
Something happens in the mid-30s. It's not just the evolution of the studio, it's the evolution of you as a woman.
Absolutely.
You're not the same person you were in your mid-20s.
No.
So I started to take things by the horn, and you start to say, this is what I want.
Right.
You start to know what you want. In my 20s, I didn't know what I wanted. You know what I mean? So once I knew what I wanted, I knew what I needed to do to get it. So the key thing was, I know I want to franchise Veritcal Joes, but how am I gonna franchise Veritcal Joes when I myself don't know what it's like to run a second location? You know what I mean? So I was like, I gotta do this.
Yeah.
Because it was stuff that I didn't have in place. Like, I didn't have an employee handbook.
Yeah.
How you gonna franchise something and not have a handbook?
Right.
You know what I mean? So launching the second location and creating duplicates of this location. Of course, the franchises and the satellite studios are mini versions of Veritcal Joes.
Right.
Every space can't do this.
No,
this
right,
is a lot.
right.
You know what I'm saying? But when you think about it, the average post studio is 800, maybe 1,000 square feet.
Right.
Maybe 1,200 square feet.
Right.
It may be one room or half a room or a flex space room.
Right.
With like a lobby, a store. Some people put poles up, some people do poles up, poles down.
Right.
Some people have open space on one side and poles on the other side, kind of thing. Like, when we step into that kind of reality of things, it's like, oh, I can launch several of those.
Right.
But how do I do it? And what does it have that the headquarters doesn't have? And how do we build the staff? And how do we train? And how do we make money? And what do we offer? So I had to launch a second location to create a blueprint for the franchises. Otherwise, I won't know what obstacles we're gonna face.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I ended up launching the second location, someone offered me an opportunity for a second location 5 years ago. And
Wow.
I didn't take it because I had just
right.
went through those bumps
Yeah.
and I was scared.
Yeah.
So a yoga studio ended up partnering with them and taking on that space. So the yoga studio was no longer, and they were again looking for someone to take on the space. And they actually contacted me. I just realized it says yoga on your computer. They were looking to having someone take on the space, but they already knew I wasn't into it. So they were contacting me to see if I would train people to teach in that space.
Okay.
Mind you, I had already been with my realtor looking for studios in that same area.
Wow.
So when they reached out to me, they were like, oh, well, I know you don't want to do it, but do you know, can you train
Right. And you're
people
like,
too?
hold the
and I was like,
bone.
well, where is it? And they
Yeah.
told me, and I was like, well, I'm looking at a space there. And they were like, oh, well, I don't want to be your competition. They was like,
Right.
do you want to have a meeting? Maybe we can figure this
Smart.
out. And that's how it ended up coming about.
So you're in a facility.
Right. I'm in a facility that is there's a gym there,
Right.
and there's Veritcal Joes there.
I love that marriage
Yeah,
between
me
it is
too.
fantastic.
It's wonderful.
I love specifically thinking about Buttercup,
Yes.
which was one
Absolutely.
of
Buttercup
my,
is beautiful.
one of my home studios, thinking about the relationship that they have with the
Absolutely.
gym and being able
Absolutely.
to use all of their facilities,
Absolutely.
even their childcare. Like
Absolutely.
there's a lot of benefits in the cross training,
Yes.
and which we
Yes.
all really
Yes.
need to do.
Yes.
It's what a beautiful marriage.
Absolutely.
So you've been in that space for now a year and a half.
Closer to officially more like a year.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what have been some of the challenges of running two studios? And you now have a staff of over 20.
I do.
So how do you manage that? Do you have anyone helping you?
Yes.
Good.
My whole team helps me.
Good.
My like, I have the best team.
You do.
Like, everyone is so helpful, because once you figure out what your vision is, you're able to explain it to other people, and they can see it too.
Yeah.
Before, it was so many things that would be in my head
Right.
that they would have no idea.
Right.
But now everybody knows what the game is. But it's been really good. Like, again, sometimes I forget that there's, a additional location, but it's been really good. I think the key thing was like, it's like you realize you have a new baby.
Right.
And the new baby needs to make its own money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that baby making money.
Yeah, the big baby is still the big baby's taking care of the little
Right.
baby's bills. It
Right.
was like, how can the little baby make its own money? So it has its own team. It has its own staff. It has its own team of investors.
Nice.
You know what I mean? That are
Nice.
like, you know what? This space, I'm about this space.
Right.
So that team of investors are helping make sure that this space grows and it thrives because it's their baby just as much as it's mine. And the investors are a part of the team. I want it to be like a Waffle House. Like Waffle House, I don't know if you know, but Waffle House, you can't own a Waffle House unless you've worked at a Waffle House.
It's like public, same thing.
Absolutely. And that's how I want my franchises to be. I don't want someone who's just like, oh, I got money, I want to launch a Veritcal Joes. I want it to be people that have been a part of Veritcal Joes that are like, I want a Veritcal Joes because they're the only ones who are really going to take pride in the vision of it. So, they've taken on this project, so it's just as much a baby of mine as it is for them. And then staffing was, not to say it was easy, it's far from headquarters. It's 40 minutes from here. But it was like, okay, well, who do we want to be there? Because it's a satellite location. It's a new location. You need people that can manage. So we have people doing like their training here, but once they're trained here, then they can teach there.
That makes
kind of
sense.
thing. But retail space is also very new for me. Like I'm not used to walk-ins or people coming by. Like I'm very like, who's that at the door? Kind of thing. But I started to adjust to a retail space. In that plaza, there's a Moe's. They have Mo Monday. I be over every Mo Monday. There's a liquor store. I love champagne. It's champagne. I'm always going to get some champagne. There's a kids dance studio. And there's 2 hair salons.
How do they feel about? Are they cool with you guys?
They're totally cool.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, they're totally cool. But I really feel like it's because the gym space built the foundation. So because they trust the gym space, they trust anything that's happening in that space. So they've been very, very, receptive to it.
In the second studio, because it's in a gym, are they teaching more fitness classes, or is it more pole?
They're teaching more fitness classes, and that space is actually geared towards like more private instructor, semi-private instructor. So it is a smaller space for good reason. Some people are very intimidated to come to a class and it's 11 people in the class. Or you come to the studio, like in this space, people will be everywhere. Like you walk in, people will be laid all out in the front. People will be polling
hanging out.
People will be flexing, people will be stretching. Like some people are intimidated by like that space is so much more private. Quite a few of them are like exclusive or celebrity type clientele. That's a great space for them to go to. Whereas in this space, I have to lock down everything for them to come in here. And that's very rare that we will stop all the classes for one person like coming in. You know what I mean? So that space has been more like exclusive, more geared towards private. And yes, lots of fitness instruction there. Lots of people practicing for competitions there, kind of thing. We have like TRX in that space.
Very cool.
We have an in-house, personal trainer. We have bar in
Very
that
cool.
space. So it has a different edge. And that's why with launching the like satellite studios, as I call them, that's VJ's North. I want to launch a VJ South, which will be closer to the airport or further down, south in Atlanta. I want them to have their own edge. So you have a reason to get a membership to all of them. Because each one has a different edge. You're not seeing the same thing. You'll see the core classes, but each one has a specialty.
Very, very smart.
Thanks, friend.
I like it.
I try.
Yes. Talking about when you set up your pricing schedule or your pricing structure, how did you set that up initially? Was it like based on your fitness background? And then how do you do it now in a way that benefits your
That's a good question. That's something that people ask me about a lot. I do a lot of consulting about that. I do a lot of paid consulting about that for one.
Good.
But here's the game on price points. You have to do your price points based on your overhead. You really can't look around and be like, this is what everyone else is charging, so this is what I'm going to charge, because people are underselling themselves on a daily basis. I've seen people undersell themselves and put themselves out of business. I've seen people, damn, sheesh. Sorry, friend.
It's okay. No, you're good.
Yeah, I've seen people undersell themselves and have Groupon put them out of business.
Groupon.
Like, you got to know what you're doing with their pricing structure.
Right.
So here's the thing. Like, I remember when we first started, I was like, we charging $25 for a drop-in class. And people told me it was too much. They was like, you can't do that, because everyone else was charging $10, $15 for a pole dance drop-in class, at the most $20. I said, but we're not sharing poles. And we have 7 poles in our studio.
Yeah.
One is for the instructor. We have to charge $25 for the class. And no one understood it. Our first set of memberships, actually we didn't have memberships. We only had class cards. And our deepest discount for class cards, I remember when people went crazy over 8 classes for $99.
Yeah.
We used to have 8 classes for $99.
That was a hell of a deal.
Absolutely. That was the deal. We used to have a membership that was $49.
Wow.
And it was 2 pole classes and 2 dance classes for the month. And people was buying that shit.
Right.
You know
Right.
why? Because we bought the value for it.
Right.
And it was based on our overhead. I don't care what anyone else is charging. This is what we're charging, because this is what pays our bills. So the thing that has evolved for us is now we're able to offer 24 classes for $49. And people are like, how are you doing that? We have more members. We have more members. How does LA Fitness have a membership for $39?
Right.
How does Planet Fitness have a membership for $19 a month?
Right.
How do they do that? They have more members, but it took time. So the difference is, as we became more established, our drop-in classes actually decreased in price, because our pay structure is, the instructors have a more of the base of the fitness background element. So they're being paid a flat rate so that members and class card holders can benefit. So the more people that we have that are class card holders and member holders, that takes care of our overhead.
Right.
So we had to wait until we had a certain number of paid clients to say, guess what, guys? This is our new deal.
Right.
This is our new this is our new that. When we first did Groupon, we didn't know what the fuck we was doing.
Yeah.
And we realized we let a lot of people slide through the cracks. When we did Groupon the second time, we knew exactly what we needed to do.
Right.
We said, in order to keep these Groupon people, the Groupon has to be limited so that when they come in, they're drawn to the Groupon, but when they come in, they were looking like, I want to take that class. Oh, well, that class is not included in your Groupon.
Smart.
Or I want to do this. That's not in your Groupon. Oh, you want it to be in your Groupon? Well, this is the rate for that. And we made sure that it was the same rate or a little less. So they had no choice but to buy it.
Right.
Now they're ours.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it took time.
Yeah.
It takes time. When you first start, unfortunately, you can't run the same deals as established people. I can't compete with an LA Fitness when I first start.
No.
You got to be realistic, because we are a boutique fitness. We're boutique. If you look at places like Soul Cycle.
Yeah. Orange Theory.
The Orange Theory,
yes.
they are charging people per class.
It is crazy.
And people are paying
Yeah.
it. You know why? Because they got an overhead. They cannot give you a class card. You're going to pay per class.
Right.
As they become more established, they may give you a deal.
Right.
But that's how it goes.
Right.
You show your value, people are going to pay it. So that's really the only thing I can say. People can't go off of our price structure. We've been open 10 years.
Right.
We can charge a different price structure. Our instructors have a different incentive to teach the drop-in classes versus the one-on-ones, versus their brand classes, versus their gigs. They got other ways that they make money.
Right.
The drop-in classes is just an advertising for how they make money. You know what I mean?
I like that.
Period.
I love
like,
that.
Like drop-in classes, like, oh, you like Fiyastarta? Well, guess what? Fiyastarta's only on the drop-in schedule a couple times out of the week. You want more Fiyastarta? You're gonna have to join a series.
Yes.
Or you're gonna have to get a one-on-one. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or you have to book her for a show. Or you're gonna have to book her for this or that, because I'm not on my schedule like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Good.
And the same with my
Right.
same with my trainers.
Yeah.
Like, we got core classes, but all of my trainers have their own thing, and people book with them because they're into that instructor. So you create the value and you'll be good to go. But pricing structure is tricky, but look at your bills.
Yeah.
Look at your bills and do your structure based on your bills, and then show your value. If you show your value, no one's gonna question you. If you well, first of all, if you're not that valuable, now, if you're not that valuable to where you should have your own studio and that kind of thing, you got to create value. So if you don't have your own value, you got to bring people in that have a value, whether they have a strong following, or maybe they won a bunch of competitions, or maybe they have a bunch of certifications. You have to create value. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then once the value is there, people have no problem paying it, because people will say that money is short, but people pay for what they want to pay for.
Right.
People are out here paying $200-$300 for lashes.
Right.
Paying $600-$700 for lace fronts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Paying, $300-$400 for teeth whitening.
Right.
People pay what they want to pay for.
And you've also kind of maximized the studio as well as booking out different types of events in here. Can you tell me a little bit about that? So like when the studio is not being used for classes,
right?
People.
Yeah. So we definitely have maximized what's happening inside of the studio. Rentals are a thing. Events are a thing. Video shoots are a thing. If you show that your space films well, people will say, I want a video just like that.
Yeah.
Like, we've had, posts that we've put up that people have looked at and said, oh, I want to do that. Then they come in and shoot a whole music video based on a post that they saw.
Right.
Or studio rentals now, some people will rent out to everyone. This is our baby.
Yeah.
So we're not renting out to everyone. The same way how we're very exclusive about the kind of clients we accept, there's a whole questionnaire. What are you doing? What type of clientele are you expecting? Is what you're doing competing with what we're doing?
Okay.
And if so, are you certified?
Yeah.
Do you have insurance? If someone gets a video with the VJ's logo in the back, are we going to be proud of that footage, or are we going to cringe at that footage? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're very specific about the rentals that we have. A lot of the rentals that we have are higher end TV shows, celebrities, practices for tours, stuff like that.
And how are they finding you? It's just literally seeing it online, or are you working with like the community?
It's online, and then relationships.
Okay.
With mainly like choreographers.
Okay.
And celebrities and local celebrities.
Okay.
Because if it's like, oh, this is a name that you trust, I want to go there.
Yeah.
Or you filmed here, that footage looks good, I want to film there.
Okay.
So it's all about relationship building as well. But if someone contacts us and they're like, we want to rent the studio, we're like, hey, fill out this questionnaire. We want to know exactly what you're doing. We're going to yay or nay your rental.
And it's okay to turn down.
Absolutely.
It is okay.
Absolutely. Because everyone has seen it before where you're like, oh my God, like what is, because here's the thing, someone may be a guest in here, right? If they do something cringy, technique is bad, or someone falls or something like that. Falls are inevitable.
Right.
But if somebody has some poor technique or something like that, and they post it and it has your brand behind it, nobody cares to say that, oh, this was just a guest, this was just, all they see is your brand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we have to take that into consideration.
Right.
Whereas when we move into our dream studio, we'll have a room that's just for fuckery.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Fuckery room.
It will be no signage in there. Whatever you in there doing, you in there doing.
Smart.
You're destroying your own brand. You're not destroying our brand. But when we're like, oh, Bravo wants to come here and film, or BET wants to rent our space, or Stars wants to rent our space, the people who are renting our space are paying top dollar to be here. You know, we lay things out for them. We give them their privacy, but they also have shown us that, hey, we have credentials. We have trained professionals that are coming in that are safe. We have our own insurance. We have this, we have that. So it's like, oh, okay, this person qualifies to rent our space. So you can choose how you want to lay it out.
And then I'm sure there's like a whole contract that you have with them.
Absolutely. Especially events like Pole Studios. If you're allowing people to rent your space for events, you gotta pay close attention to what they're doing. Alcohol, insurance, liabilities. You gotta know what's happening in your space and know what you're willing to be liable for and what they're gonna be liable for. So you have to make sure that you're very specific about that. Or certain things saying, you may pay to rent the space for this, but you may not capture any of our signage or any of our branding. That way you keep yourself safe.
That's smart. And these people are finding you basically through your relationships.
It's all relationships.
So I
barely advertise studio rentals.
And I mean, I'm thinking about it. You toured with Lil Wayne before you even
started anything.
So your team performed at Coachella. Like,
oh my gosh, yes.
And you were just in Lizzo's video. On Snoop Dogg and Super Bowl. Like, when these people are finding you based on your relationships that you've already had. How does this benefit your business? Is this giving you a surge in visibility, or? So
let's talk about that. So Coachella, for example, Cardi B's epic performance at Coachella when she was pregnant, that was one of our instructors, Chinette, aka Egypt. Egypt, she is one of our instructors. She stays on the move. Like she acts. She dances, so she's always getting booked on different gigs and things. So again, this is how the studio benefits from your brand and the brand benefits, from you as well. Because there are plenty of things that we have booked her for. But that particular show, Magic City did the recruiting for that particular show. And then it was like, boom, now next thing you know, we got Team VJs in the Coachella show. Crazy. So from that, people see her in that show and they want to train with her. So then where does she train? At Veritcal Joes. So now they're making their way to Veritcal Joes just to train with her. Lizzo, same. Lane Wonder teaches here. She's a part of our Vertically Voluptuous team. She's a wonderful instructor. She, in that video, she was like labeled the athletic big girl. Because when I tell you, Lane, she can do shit that so many skinny bitches can't do. She's amazing. Like, she's agile, she's strong, she's flexible. She does amazing choreography. So there was an audition here, and, I knew about the audition, she knew about the audition, but I couldn't book that audition for her. They only wanted curvy women. So there was nothing I could fucking do for her on that. She had to go out and get that. So she went through there. It's a choreographer, like, old school, Sean Bankhead here in Atlanta. Super, super dope choreographer. He's very young. When I was starting pole programs, he was like a young choreographer. Now he's like insane, like Missy, Lizzo, so many different people. But he was a choreographer for that project. She did that audition, went after it. She booked that shit. You know what I'm saying? So when you push your instructors to be great, their resume becomes your resume as well. So she booked that Lizzo gig, you know what I mean? And from her doing Lizzo, and this was, Lizzo was still Lizzo has like went through the roof now.
Right.
But this was still like, people were still kind of slick sleeping on Lizzo when this happened. So now people are like, oh shit, like she's through the roof. But yeah, Lane Wonder booked this gig with Lizzo. And I remember initially, I was only up on Lizzo because she had a pole dancer in one of her old videos. So I was already following her.
Right.
I was already into her. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, oh, when they put that audition out, they only wanted curvy women.
I love it.
And she went after that. You know what I'm saying? So that was wonderful. Super Bowl was insane.
That's
for
crazy.
us.
Yeah.
It was insane. Super Bowl, we did so many shows. Snoop's show was actually for the Patriots. Like Snoop didn't book us, the Patriots.
Wow.
You know,
That's
the damn
so cool.
Patriots booked us.
That's awesome.
For the show that Snoop was performing in. We provided posts for like the Trap Museum. T.I. had stuff going on, provided posts for that. Snoop, his show was a thing. Magic City had stuff going on outside of Magic City because Magic City was just that insane over Super Bowl. So like that weekend, we had like 14 pole rentals.
Wow.
I had to outsource pole rentals on Super Bowl weekend.
That's fantastic.
And meanwhile, we had shows with Ludacris.
Yeah.
And we had shows with Snoop over Super Bowl weekend. And as much as I tried to staff other people to do things, I myself was performing Super Bowl weekend because like I had to.
Right. How could you not?
You know what I mean? But people definitely contacted us and was like, I heard Veritcal Joes was a staple in Atlanta. Yeah. So we wanted to make sure that we reached out to you for what it is that we were doing. So that was real cool. But my resume is dope, but my instructor's resume is what makes our brand great. Because as much as I'm doing shit, I'm always pushing my instructors to do shit. You know what I mean? Like I was just recently going in on my vertically voluptuous girls because they forced my hand to create them their own page on Instagram. I was like, why you get your own page? Everybody else at Veritcal Joes got their own brand, but they don't got their own page. Why you need your own page? They demand their own page. So it made their own page, but then I was like, where's my content?
Yeah.
Because I can't be content for your page. Where are my posts? Yeah. Where are my pictures? And they wasn't coming with it. And I was going off on them. Listen, they have launched workshops. Nice. They've launched podcasts. They've done interviews. They're doing competitions. Yes. They're like, oh, here's the content you've been cussing us out about. Here it is. You know what I mean? Right. So yeah, push your instructors. Like, don't be afraid. Like, there are multiple. Now, granted, to be a face of Veritcal Joes, you have to be exclusive to Veritcal Joes. Right. You know what I mean? But everyone at Veritcal Joes is pushed to have a brand. Don't be in the shadow of the studio. Do your thing. Be who you're going to be. Let us support you and let your brand support us.
I love it. And speaking about brands, you have now developed your own personal brand. While you've been developing your instructor's brand, you're like, it's time for me.
It's true.
How and why did you decide to do that?
Well, I decided to launch my own brand. Lazily, I realized it was things that was appropriate for myself outside of Veritcal Joes. And then I had a couple of sit-downs. I had Cleo the Hurricane. I did not know that Cleo picked my brain years ago before she launched her own brand. And a lot of the things that I told her she was inspired by, she did it, and then she ended up going above and beyond. So she was one of the people that was like, well, why isn't Fiyastarta a brand? Or why aren't you your own brand? I was like, you know. And then it's a young lady named Diddy Emma, who also, she was like, you know, Joe is a thing. Like, she was like, you're a thing. Like, why aren't you embracing, like, yourself? And I was just like, blah, 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 you know, kind of thing. So it really wasn't until I thought I was going into, like, retirement, management mode, not really teaching, not really being talent. Let me teach other people to teach.
Yeah.
Let me book other talent, blah, blah, blah. I thought I was going in that direction. But then it was like a surge. It was like, oh, we want you to do this. We want you to MC. We want you to appear in this. We want you to perform. We want you. And I was just like, whoa, I wasn't ready for these things. And it was almost like finding yourself.
Yeah.
I launched a personal page and I knew I had no clue what my personal page was about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't know who I was outside of Veritcal Joes.
Right.
Like, if you asked me what my favorite color was, it would be whatever Veritcal Joe's favorite colors are.
Right.
Or if you asked me what my brand stood for, it would be whatever Veritcal Joe's brand stood for. I didn't have my own brand. As much as I was developing brands for the instructors, I didn't have my own. So there was a push because it was like people are still booking you as yourself.
Yeah.
There are people that are fans of you.
Right.
That Veritcal Joes is secondary for them. So what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
So I had to really kind of sit down and be like, well, before Veritcal Joes took over my life, what was I about? Like, what do I like? Like, what am I about? And that's where like fashion like came back in, because I was to fashion school initially. Like I thought I wanted to like design clothes and all of that stuff, but I just realized I just want to wear them and be cute. I don't want to sew any of that stuff. I had to tap back into that. I wanted to pursue a career in communications. When I was younger, I wanted to be a VJ. I remember being like a video disc jockey was a thing. I wanted to be like a VJ. At one point, I wanted to be like a newscaster. Like, I started to tap back into that and was like, well, emceeing is fulfilling that void, but how much emceeing can I do? Can I MC outside of the pole community? Like, how can I make that happen?
Yes.
Fashion, like, what can I do? Can I have a store? Do people want to buy what I'm wearing? Like, what can I do with that? Like, and then it was like, well, what do I enjoy personally? Yeah, I enjoy twerk, but that's more like twerk technicians, more like Veritcal Joes. Like, what do I love? I actually love stretching. Like, what is my stretch journey doing?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening with that? Maybe I can, play around with that. Then it was like, I like blogging. Like, what can I do with my blogging? I want to learn a foreign language. What can I do with my foreign language? So I started to really tap into my personal brand. And then it kind of like hit me. A lot of this stuff it's already there, but you can't see it.
Right.
Because Veritcal Joes is the professional playground. For the longest, it was like I was doing all this branding stuff, and I was like, it's right there.
Right.
We're the professional women's playground. What else am I looking for? So when I look at my personal brand, I'm Fiyastarta. What else am I looking for? Everything is in my name already.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I'm hot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm
starting
I'm starting things.
Yes.
I'm a trailblazer. How can I help other people blaze the trail? How can they figure out what they want to do? How can they figure out what they are? How can they be hot? How can they look hot? How can they feel hot? So it started to all kind of like come together. Sometimes the stuff that you be looking for, it's right there. It's right there. You don't have to look for it. So I started to, explore, like, even with my own image, like, for a long time I was attached to red hair.
Yes.
Because Fiyastarta is like red hair.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
yep.
But Torwa Joe is not red hair. It's okay to have black hair. When I hit the stage, I'll have red hair.
Yeah.
But who am I with black hair? Who am I? You know what I'm saying? So it was a lot of like searching with that, but it took some time. But then after a while I realized, oh, okay, this is what Fiyastarta's brand is about. This is who she is.
Right.
And she has her own elements that are separate from Veritcal Joe's element. Veritcal Joe's loves zebra, you know what I'm saying? But Fiyastarta loves bling. I just like sparkly shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So
Yeah.
you started to really kind of like tap into it, but you got to create separation between your work and your play. And for a long time, I didn't know how to do that. But I'm saying that mid-30s is a bitch. Like, you are forced to find yourself, and you have to figure things out.
Yeah.
Like, there were so many things I didn't care about. Like, for the longest, all I cared about was the decor of the studio.
Okay.
Even like at my own home, it was very plain. I didn't care. Then I started going crazy. Like, I don't like this couch. I want this couch. I don't want this painting. I want this. When I come home, I want it to feel like this. Like, when did I start caring about home decor instead of shoes? You know what I mean? So,
right.
It just
evolution,
changes.
yeah.
It's an evolution,
It
but
is.
you need your own personal brand, and it should be separate. And like I said, Cleo and Diddy kind of gave that to me way earlier than I was ready to receive it.
Yeah.
But once it sunk in, I was like,
right. They planted that seed,
Right.
you know, and it's there and it's in the back of your head.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, pretty much like a pole move, one day it
You
just
nailed it.
happens.
Yeah.
It just happens.
Absolutely.
Speaking about you emceeing shows, you're like such an amazing MC.
Thank you,
I
man.
literally, as soon as I hear that you were hosting a show, I'm like, I'm there.
Thank you,
I am
bud.
there. Your like energy is undeniable, and
Thank you.
just like turn it on and you go. How did you get started emceeing shows?
listen, emceeing came from A.M. Davies.
Yeah.
And Esty Zakar.
Nice.
And Lindsay from Expo. So you know that the Arnolds is like a big competition.
Yeah.
Pole Championship Series is a big competition. When they first launched, we were in that rough of pole straddling the fence between pole fitness.
Right.
And pole straddling the fence between exotic pole.
Right.
Where we were trying to be accepted in both arenas. So the PCS was very instrumental in making sure that pole was respected as a sport. So the first year that they had the PCS, they wanted to invite fitness professionals that were established pole dancers.
Okay.
So myself, Natasha Wong, Esty Zakar, and Prana were judges for the first pole championship
Wow.
series. So we go there, and mind you, pole is, we had a concourse where it's like a side stage.
Okay.
Where it was like a stage pole, and there were like pole fitness presentations.
Right.
All the outfits were sponsored by Bad Kitty. It was very athletic,
Yeah.
barefoot, kind of thing. And then there was a actual competition that was like on a large stage, had all kinds of amazing athletes,
Yeah.
Jazzy Alex, Ashley Fox, Bunny
Yes.
from Vertical Joes,
Yes.
all these things. So at that event, I was not the MC in any kind
Okay.
of way. The lead MC was Clint Huff,
Okay.
who is an amazing MC in the fitness market and beyond. And Fania was
Okay.
also the MC. I was there to judge. So they ended up having us all do concourse.
Okay.
So we get to the concourse, and there's no MC for the concourse. Everybody's passing a mic around
Okay.
to introduce each other. So I don't know who went first or anything like that, but it was like, oh, well, can you introduce me? And I was like, yeah. And I was just like, I felt weird introducing you, and I don't know what to say. So I was like, oh, well, tell me this or tell me that. So whoever it was, I gave them an introduction. They came on stage, and I was like, oh, man, that was a shit. They was like,
Yeah.
the next person was like, can you introduce me too? So I introduced the next person. And then Lindsay, no lie, was like, oh, you're really good at that. Can you introduce everybody?
Yes.
So I ended up introducing everybody on the concourse. It was a side stage. And I remember the concourse was dry. I mean, wheat bread, rye toast, burnt toast dry, no butter, no jelly. That
man.
shit was dry. People was just looking. And I remember I got on the stage and I had the mic, and I was like, hey, y'all need to clap. And I was like, you with the muscles, you need to clap. I remember calling people out and was like, y'all need to get into this, because what we're doing is not easy. And I got the crowd involved, and the girls, did their thing or whatever. And it was all this other stuff I was supposed to do over the weekend as a judge, but I ended up being at the concourse all the time. And at the end of it, everyone was like, man, you were really good. You need to come back and do that. So I remember, I think I was at the airport, and Anne-Marie and Esty was like, you really need to be an MC. And I was like, oh, no, that's not my thing. I don't really know. I don't even have a resume, whatever. And Anne-Marie was like, surely there's something you can put on your resume that's similar. Esther, you got to do something. So I remember I had like emceed at a male review.
Okay.
So I put that on there. The shows at Veritcal Joes, I was like, I emceed that.
Absolutely.
And then I was like, oh shit, and I did the concourse at the Arnold's. I did that. So I put my fitness credentials, and I sent it to Lindsay. And I was like, here's my MC resume.
Yeah.
And that next year, they asked me to be the actual MC for like the show.
Yeah.
And they asked me to co-host with Clint. I came back the next year. I got a gown.
Yes.
I co-hosted with Clint. And the year after that, they asked me to host by myself.
Wow.
Yeah. So the PCS was my platform as an MC. And then once I MC that, because everybody goes to the PCS.
Right.
People started to talk, and then PoleCon has its official MC, like Shay and Crystal. Those are my girls.
Yeah,
they're the official MCs for PoleCon.
Yeah, but
123 Polling was like, "Can you MC our show?" And I asked them, "Was it okay?" And they say, "Yeah." And then Black Girls Pole is like the most lit. You have to knock everything down.
Literally,
it's the most lit show at PoleCon.
Yes.
And they asked me to MC, and I asked them, and they said it was okay.
Yes.
So I MC'd that, and then I've MC'd numerous shows. I just did my first show in London, internationally.
Wow.
I MC'd,
congratulations.
Thank you. I MC'd Exotic Generation.
Wow.
And I was very concerned because, my accent, the people there.
They ate it
they ate it.
I'm
and the people
sure.
there, I didn't know them. I had to study these people. Some people were from Germany. Some people were from France. I didn't know how to pronounce their names. I had to learn. And I had my British accent ready. In case they asked me to speak proper, I was ready to speak proper because I didn't want anyone to be concerned about my accent. So I was ready for them.
That is fantastic.
So I was ready.
Yeah.
I was like, if you can't understand me, we're gonna have it together. So yeah, and then MCing like now, like they know it's a thing.
Yeah.
Like they'll give me a budget for like my wigs,
and
my dresses.
Good.
And then I can sell the dresses later. So it just ended up like being a thing, and I just wasn't expecting it.
Right.
But it kind of ties into my 20s goal of communications. It's just in a different form. So I love MCing.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And I think because I actually pole, there's a different kind of like
connection for sure. Absolutely.
Yes, because people who MC, like they're just like, oh yeah, here comes another pole dancer.
Right.
But when you actually pole, you have a different appreciation for everything that's happening.
Yes.
And I think that's what made a difference for me. And then like if it's someone like I know their history or someone that studied their history, like I don't need this script.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna talk about you, in a light that when you come and hit that stage, people are gonna like have all the respect when you come out.
Right.
Based on your introduction, So that's what I kind of like really pride myself on.
Yeah, you do an amazing job.
Thank you. I love it.
I don't know how you just like turn it on.
I love it.
But you do, and it's consistent.
Thank you.
And I think that's really hard, especially for some of our shows. They're really long.
They are long.
And maintaining that consistent energy. I mean, I'm not going to get there yet.
That's okay.
But we'll get there.
Okay.
I want to talk about volunteer work.
Okay. Yeah.
So, like, I've just been little old me for the past,
You're an amazing you.
Oh, thank you.
You are.
But, like, before I started the show, I was just, like, little old me going around to studios and conventions and stuff. And I like to volunteer. It gives me a sense of purpose. Absolutely. And just makes you feel good, and you get to meet all sorts of kinds of people. So I went to Pole Expo in Las Vegas. I think it was 2016, and I volunteered. And I thought it was so cool that you had the entire Veritcal Joes team volunteering at Pole Expo. Is volunteering something that's always been important to you, and why did you have your team volunteering there?
So volunteering has always been important to me, only because if you have ever run a fitness event or a pole fitness event, I don't care what anyone says, you need help.
Yeah.
Like, you can have volunteers all day, but things are expensive, things are costly. There are so many monkey wrenches that pop up, things that you didn't expect to happen. Like, you need help. Something like a pole expo, I cannot imagine what Fanya goes through.
No.
Something like a pole con,
right?
I cannot imagine what Colleen goes through.
Thank you guys.
Like, thank you guys for what you do. I have absolutely no desire to do any kind of expo in that kind of way, because it's so difficult. It's so time consuming. It has to require so much of your personal time and your personal energy. It's hard. So when we were headed to Pole Expo, now I do remember, now if you volunteer, there is like a discount.
Yeah, she gave
on
like a
tickets
discount
or things like that. But again, if I have explained before, my instructors have money.
Right.
They don't have no issue about paying for anything.
No, it's wanting to do it.
It's wanting to do it. So the conversation came about like, let's help Fanya.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Fanya gave me a platform. One of the first pole competitions I ever did was Polapalooza.
Wow.
And I did Polapalooza just to meet Fanya, because Fanya was such a staple in the pole community. So seeing her journey with being like the first pole studio, and when I did Fanya's certification, I didn't do Fanya's certification because I didn't know how to pole dance. I did Fanya's certification because I respect Fanya, and I wanted to learn from her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like, Fanya's having an event. We know this event is difficult. It's in Vegas. This is real money in Vegas, right? Real money in Vegas. We want to help. Whatever you need us for, we want to help you. So my team was with it. They were like, whatever Fanya needs, we're going to do it.
And we're not talking about like an hour or anything. We're talking about
the entire,
multiple days, hours. Like,
absolutely. Because I would want someone to do the same for me if I was in her position. Volunteering is so important. So if you have the opportunity to help with a pole competition, a pole show, a pole event where you can volunteer and help people, I would highly recommend doing so, because you don't know what your contribution is doing for that person.
Right.
And if it were you and the roles were switched, you would want that person's help.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's like my key thing. So any way that we can help, it's just like charity. You would go out and pick up trash, or you would donate shoes, or you would donate clothes. If it's a pole competition, a pole event going on, help out. Like, that shit is hard.
It is so hard.
That shit is hard. It is
many moving parts.
A lot of work. It's so many moving parts. And you as an organizer, you cannot predict the kind of things that are going to go down until you're actually in the position of where it's happening. And everyone doesn't have a team.
No.
Like, I'll say Veritcal Joes has a solid team, okay? If you have a team, you have people behind you that can help you.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't have a team.
No.
Okay? So, and even if you have a team, it never hurts to have more help.
Right. Absolutely.
So that was a thing. Like, PoleCon and Pole Expo are like very like big to me. Like, I feel like we got our start from pole convention.
Yeah.
Because if we had not performed at pole convention, the pole community, the world would not have seen us and our style and what we do. We perform at pole convention every year just so that we interact with the community.
Yep.
But all year, people visit Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, I got to go to Veritcal Joes because I saw them at PoleCon.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But Colleen has a big girl job.
Colleen
Fanya got a whole baby.
Right,
okay?
right.
And Colleen got a big girl job.
I don't know how they do it. Right.
It's not cheap.
It's not easy.
Expensive, you know what I mean? It's not easy at all. So I just want to make sure that wherever we can, especially with us, we're coming in, 10 deep,
right.
5 deep, 15 deep, whatever we can do when we're coming in with our team. I want to make sure that we're helping. Because again, when people come to our events and they're like, Joe, do you need anything? I want to be able to say, hey, you know what? Here's what I do need.
Right.
I would want someone to do the same for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So now we can get to kind of the fun questions.
Fun questions. What we got?
Okay, so I saw on the website that you guys have a studio word of endearment.
Yes.
And what is it and why?
Okay, so our word of endearment is bud. Okay. Bud comes from everybody being your friend.
Okay.
Here at the studio because we grown.
Yeah.
Okay, and grown folks usually do not take on new friends. Okay,
Right.
You like, I got my old friends. I got the friends I went to school with. I got the people I grew up with. You don't take on new friends,
right.
Okay? But when you join something like a Veritcal Joes or a Pole Studio, you're a grown-ass woman and you meet new people and you make new friends. So people become your bud, okay? But bud also is in part not just being someone's friend, but it's also like a rosebud. So roses, everyone is infatuated with roses, especially, around Valentine's and that kind of thing. But everybody wants to be a beautiful rose, concrete rose, red rose, white rose. But the thought is when you come to the studio, you're just a bud, right? And as you explore more classes or as you dance more, you develop, you grow, right? You bud and you blossom. So bud is in two parts. You yourself, you're a bud and you're ready to blossom. And then you're also my friend as a bud. So we call everyone bud. And we have definitely had people come into the studio where they're like, bud, are you tearing up, friend?
Yeah. It's
up?
just so beautiful. It's just...
Don't cry.
Oh no, it's tears of joy.
Do you need a
It's
tissue?
No, I let
you
them.
need some champagne?
I let them flow freely. No,
Okay.
I think it's
Thank
the
you.
most beautiful thing, and it's really what I love about this community so much, because we talked about it before the show that a lot of times we don't know what people
You
are
don't know what
coming
people
in.
are going through.
And
Absolutely.
the people that generally stick are here for a reason.
Right.
And so this idea of it not just being your friends, but also
Right.
you blossoming.
Absolutely. You got to grow when you come here.
It's just like that was my evolution. That's what I
Absolutely.
found.
Absolutely.
I remembered the first moment I walked into my first studio,
Right.
and how I felt. The
Exactly.
owner made me feel like
Exactly.
not just a buddy, but a beautiful flower.
Absolutely.
And that I had no idea that it had that double meaning.
It
And
does.
that's just like
Yeah.
so beautiful.
You sure you don't want a tissue?
Yeah, no, trust me. Listeners of this show know how often
My
I
friend.
cry.
Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause
no,
it's real tears, y'all.
It's real tears. No,
It's
and
real tears
I
happening
really
right now.
just love this community so much for what they give women and men. What we give people. What we give people is so much more than this apparatus.
Right.
It's therapy, it's growth, it's change, it's courage, it's bravery.
Absolutely.
And if only more people understood that, if only more people understood why these apparatus are so important, that it's so much more than just the apparatus. It's the community, it's the evolution of yourself.
Absolutely.
The risks that we take in here make it so that we can take risk outside of here.
Ooh.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
that is so
It's
beautiful.
Heavy. It's
yeah.
heavy.
Oh,
But that's true. That's true. Like I'll say this, like I was telling you before, when people come to our studio, outside the people that come for a bachelorette party or
Right.
birthday party or something along those lines, they are coming because they're in a different space.
Yep.
You don't know what they just went through. They might have just lost a job. They may have just, had a baby. They may have been one of those women that got married in their 20s
Right.
and never got to tap into who they are or what they into. They might have just had a miscarriage.
Right.
They may be abused. They may just got out of a violent relationship.
Right.
They may be on the cusp of if they like men or if they like women. You don't know
Right.
what they're going through. When they come to the studio should be a space for them to embrace themselves and
Yes.
explore themselves. It should be a space where they have a good time. It should be a judgment-free zone. You know what I'm saying? But you
God.
don't know what people are going through. But
And this is what the public is missing.
Exactly.
This is seriously, and I know I'm talking to people who already know, but like this is what the public is missing.
Right.
If only they understood that it's not us dancing around and
Exactly.
being sexual, and that's
Exactly.
and
And that's
it can be
okay.
that too.
And that's okay.
But like, if only they understood the journey that occurs because
Right.
of the apparatus.
Right. But people don't understand, they're like, I don't understand how dancing on the pole
Right.
or
How
twerking
that's
in a class
empowering.
or how does this make you feel good? How was it empowering? Like, you don't understand how much females are shamed for their bodies or
Right.
shamed for their sensuality or shamed for their sexuality.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When you're in a space where it's just us ladies and you're able to let your hair down and
Yeah.
let loose, it feels good.
Yeah.
Or you've been at work all day.
Right.
You know, you don't know how stressful people's works are. Like, I was talking to one of my instructors the other day, and every time she goes into her job, she's concerned about getting laid the fuck off.
Yeah.
People are getting laid off on a
Right.
daily basis.
Right.
So when she comes to the studio and she lets her hair down, she's celebrating another day that she got a damn job.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you
Absolutely.
don't know what people
Yeah.
are going through.
Yeah.
And that's why this has to remain a safe space where
Right.
people can go in and enjoy themselves and have a good time. This is therapeutic.
Yes.
People may not understand it. Like,
No.
you may not understand how, writing therapy, people don't understand therapy.
Right.
I
Right.
went through therapy
Right.
for years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because of I had abandonment issues with my father.
Yep.
And people didn't understand why I was writing a letter to someone who wasn't gonna read it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
But it made me
Right.
feel good. You
And-
know what I mean?
And that's all that fucking matters.
Exactly.
That is all that matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So they may not understand it, but we have our spaces for this reason, and that's why
Yeah.
we do what we do.
Oh, that was not, that was very fun, but not what I was expecting.
Yes, we got
deep.
this got way
Yes.
way too deep. We're not fooling with y'all on that.
We're going to lighten it up now.
We are gone.
So let's talk about what do you like to do to relax?
Well, I like sitting on someone's face. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
My favorite pastime.
I'm sorry. Actually, let me get serious. That is nice though.
Yes, always.
For me, relaxation. So I was telling you earlier, I like hobbies that pay me.
Yes.
Okay. So my current hobbies are, and these are things that I have to learn the skill for. So don't think that I'm skilled in these areas in any kind of way. But swimming, skating, and learning another language are the current hobbies that I have.
I like it.
Relaxation, I love pampering. Like, here in Atlanta, we have these Asian spas where you can go in and get scrubbed down and get your feet rubbed, and you can hang out in different saunas and, eat ramen. Like, I love that. It makes me feel like I'm not even in Atlanta. Traveling is therapeutic to me. I love that. And I am a bit of a workaholic.
Yeah.
So another brand of therapy for me is, I told you about me obsessing over this beach thing, but sitting in a relaxing environment and just writing and planning like it clears my mind so much.
I love it too.
I love it so much.
I love planners and
Yeah.
all those things.
Yeah, like I love those. Like for a long time I didn't have a written planner, but once I like got like a new one, I have all these different journals and booklets.
Yeah.
And I found myself at Office Depot spending $35 on a stinking journal.
I know.
But it felt so good to like
Yeah.
write in it. So yeah, those are the things that are feeling good to me. And like I said, I'm approaching 40, so things like decorating my house are therapeutic for me. Exploring scents, were therapeutic for me. But I really just love traveling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like going
you.
places I haven't been before. That's like big therapy for me right now.
I love it.
Yeah, feels good.
Yeah, it does. I just even a change of scenery. I mean,
Right.
we're still struggling to make our way
You know
out
what
of
I'm saying?
Florida
You know what I'm saying?
officially, but like even just coming into Georgia, just like seeing mountainscape or hills even was
Absolutely.
really, really nice. So I get that. Okay, so your favorite performance that either yourself or your team has done?
Favorite performance. Okay, so my favorite performance to date, I think, is Zebra Routine from PoleCon.
Okay.
Featuring King Zebra Seduction.
Yes.
I think to date that is my favorite performance, not just because of the show itself, but the creative process in that show was hilarious.
Okay, so like I'm glad that you brought that one up because if you hadn't, I would have. So remember how I was like, we'll get there. We'll get there.
We will get there.
We'll get there.
And
we're here.
Now
We're here. We've
arrived.
arrived. That performance was incredible.
Thank you.
I was lucky enough to be in the room for it.
Oh, you was in the audience
I
for
was
that?
in the
Oh,
audience
shit was
for that.
stupid.
Oh,
It was
my
stupid.
God. Like I was showing, my husband edits the show and he helps me do some of my research. So I was showing him my favorite performance of you guys. So I showed him his performance. I was like getting emotional just thinking about the energy in that room.
It
like
was
the
insane.
vibration.
It was insane.
Oh my God. And then what did you call him? What was his name?
King Zebra.
Oh my God.
His name is Seduction.
Oh my God. I floored. Literally, I'll link to the video.
Yes.
You have to see this. I think after I asked you if that was his wiener.
It is his wiener.
I was
It's a
shocked.
very
It was
strong wiener.
But like, how did you choreograph that? That was it was an 11-minute long routine.
It was. So the funny thing is, PoleCon now has a time. Well, PoleCon may have always had a time limit, but they never really gave us a time limit on our shows. But so the studio mascot is a zebra.
Yes.
I chose a zebra because horses are strong. People always admire like stallion horses, but I went with zebra some time ago because zebras all have unique stripes. They're all unique individually, but they roll together as a pack to, fight away predators and to appear bigger, than what they are. So that's why our team mascot is a zebra. So PoleCon is very important to me because PoleCon allowed us to establish our personal style.
Yeah.
When we first went to PoleCon, we actually tried to change our routine to look more like what everyone else was doing because we were scared if our style was going to be accepted.
Oh.
But we couldn't pull it together, so we just did what we did.
Thank God.
Yeah, I'm very thankful. And that next year, Jesselyn asked us to teach at PoleCon, and we were able to debut twerk and our own like personal style.
Yeah.
Which that year we did a football routine, which is probably my second favorite all-time DJ's routine. So, in choreographing this routine, PoleCon is a big deal at Veritcal Joes for sure. So we had a lot of moving parts. People had to audition to be in multiple parts of the routine. And we had people like Chris Styles and Anna Kia, who are VJ representatives in LA and Houston, who actually Skyped in to learn their portions of the routine.
Okay.
So, each year I like to, debut Veritcal Joes and new Veritcal Joes members, but I always like to, if we can, have a special guest and debut something new. So we had launched a class that's called Strip and Stroke.
Okay.
which is male strippers and a live nude male model.
Yes.
So we thought it would be cool to bring Strip and Stroke to PoleCon, but when we put Strip and Stroke up for class registration, nobody was signed up for it.
Right.
Because people didn't know what the hell it was.
You got to showcase
Yes, so
it.
I was like, we may need to show them what it's all about in our show. So Ryan, I met Ryan probably about 10 years ago.
Wow.
In the exotic dance circuit in Atlanta. I would give Ryan maybe about 7 years ago.
Okay.
It was a big show here that featured the top exotic entertainers, and he was very young and he was one of those exotic entertainers. We exchanged information and we said we got to collaborate in the future. So long story short, we ended up getting booked on the same gig.
Oh, wow.
And we decided that we need to join forces, so he became my partner in Strip and Stroke. So long story short, for those of you that don't know, in Atlanta, when the male strippers dance for you, well, let me clarify that. We have male strippers which dance like at clubs, say like a Swinging Richards or something like that. Generally, when you go in there, the men, the penis is soft, because they got to dance all night, kind of thing. They're in boots, kind of thing. And that type of environment it could be male clients, it could be female clients, that kind of thing. Great atmosphere, great club. The male reviews are a different circuit. Yeah. People like Seduction are at the top of their industry. The men at these shows, they dance with their penis erect. That's amazing. They tie it off. And listen, this ain't no game. No. This is like real life, dirty South, big black cock going on situation, right? People are like, whoa, like, what is that?
Yeah, like, I thought it was a paper towel.
Exactly, listen.
Roll.
They pick people up, they do flips, they do tricks, and they got the biggest dicks in the nation. Yes. So with that said, I was like, Seduction, we gotta put you in this routine. Yeah. So we had this whole show choreographed. We had all of Veritcal Joes. We had a feature as well. We had Minnie Smalls, which is a 4-foot wonder of the world.
She is amazing.
She performed in the show as well, and we said, we're gonna be zebras. We're gonna have a king zebra. So Seduction came in. He coordinated his outfit with ours, you know what I'm saying? We said, we got Stripper Show coming up. You gotta show him what the man meat do. Yes. So, he had the penis erect. Yes. He had a zebra outfit. Everything. We choreographed the sequence, and it was insane.
It was everything.
It was insane. Like that entire show, like I just remember all of the screaming, but when he came out, I thought my ears were gonna melt off.
A girl in the front row, like you can see it in the YouTube video. A girl just stands up and just holds her hands up, just like holding.
She saw the Holy Ghost. She saw the Holy Ghost.
Yes.
She saw the Holy Ghost. But after that show, Strip and Stroke was sold out.
I bet
it was sold out, and so many people connected with Seduction, which is really cool because he had never been a part. He's been a part of Veritcal Joes, and mind you, coming from the exotic dance industry, and this is both male and female, you're used to being alone.
Right.
When he came into this PoleCon, he was like, I felt the community. And as much as his industry in particular, only dances for women.
Okay.
Like, if you dance for men, you might get blackballed out of that community. So he was appreciative of the pole community, the women only aspect of it. And then he also respected that there were men that pole dance that were not disrespectful to him, that he only dances for women. Right. They still supported him.
Right.
You know what I mean? So he found a new home in the community. Oh. And that next year he competed in the Arnolds as well. So he really took on his element as a pole dancer, which I can totally love, and respect. But I want to say that that's probably my favorite. And I appreciate Colleen and Elijah for allowing us to do that, because it was like, well, is it okay if this guy is out here on stiff, kind of thing? It was wonderful. It was a great element to the show.
Man.
So I think that's hands down my favorite VJ's performance to date.
I agree with that.
Yeah. And personally, I want to say my personal favorite is probably performing Back That Ass Up with Lil Wayne.
Yes.
Like to actually be in concert and to twerk. Because back then we didn't call it twerking.
Okay.
But to perform in concert in Back That Ass Up. And I was a lead in Back That Ass Up. So that I want to say is probably hands down my personal favorite performance.
Is there video footage of that?
Somewhere, this was what, 2007, 2008. It's probably on YouTube somewhere. I'll find it for you for sure.
See that. That's awesome. And now your favorite performance of someone else. It doesn't have to be all time, but just anything that comes to mind.
My favorite performance of someone else. Oh gosh, that's a lot. You know, I've seen a lot, especially with emceeing. I've seen a lot of performances. I'm gonna say, it's so much. Even with so I'm gonna say my favorite performance is gonna be Ashley Fox.
Which one?
Well,
there's so many.
It's two that stand out for me. So let me say this. I met Ashley Fox so many years ago. I remember she was the first person I saw on 1, 2, 3 polling. And I remember for many years, Ashley Fox was competing in a lot of competitions, but she didn't win them.
She didn't.
She would be dope, but she didn't win them.
And it always blew my mind.
Baffled me why she wasn't winning them. But you know what? She never got discouraged.
No.
She continued to compete. And then once she started winning shit, she kept winning shit. So it's two performances that stick out in my mind from Ashley. One would be, I don't know what year it was, but I was emceeing the Arnold. And Ashley was a flower.
Okay.
And she cut herself out of a bag.
Okay, I think I remember this.
Yeah, and she basically grew out of this bag and she performed. And I remember, the starfish has always been a nemesis of so many. And I remember her busting out the starfish fearlessly. Like, I'm the type, I wouldn't put stuff like a knee hold or a starfish. I wouldn't put certain things in a performance or a competition only because no matter how many times you've done those moves, you risk not sticking it in a performance based on the pose or the humidity or your life. You just don't know. So I remember commending her bravery on that. I don't know if she placed. I know she didn't win that competition, but I'm not even sure if she placed. But I remember it was so memorable to me that I was like, she's an amazing performer. Now, Ashley, from then, she's competed in everything, she's performed in everything, and she wins shit.
Yeah.
Like, killing it.
Yeah.
Like, and she will still be she will be as humble as a first-time amateur. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's so humble. But I will say last year, she performed in Black Girls Pole.
Yes.
And brought the house down.
Was that the Halsey song,
The
Take
who?
Me to the Castle?
No, this was motherfucking Rick Ross.
Yes.
Okay. She did some Rick Ross, and she combined like the element of like hood and ratchet. She mixed in every mainstream dance.
Okay.
And then she did all her signature tricks that you expected her to do. And then she debuted some tricks that it was like, lose your life if you want to trying this. You may want to get a workshop with me to figure this out because you don't want to figure this out on your own. But I love the fact that she was cool with, some people when they perform, they want to look pretty the whole time.
No,
she was like, fuck it. I'm going to give you this mean mug, this ugly face, you know what I'm saying? And then I'm going to be cute at the end. So I want to say that was probably one of my favorite performances, not only to watch, but as an MC, I thrive off of performances that the audience gets amped up off of. When she finished that performance, I was able to come out.
Yeah.
I asked the DJ to run the music back. The whole audience stood up and we just danced.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't get that moment often. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna say that those two performances might be my with it being off the cuff. Because listen, guys, I didn't get this question really in advance to really marinate on it. But off the cuff, I'm gonna say that this was like my favorite shit. You know what I'm saying? And Ashley, she's like a small girl.
She is.
She's a small
I thought when
girl.
I first initially saw her, I thought she was a child. I thought she was like a 16-year-old gymnast or something.
Yeah, and I've seen her like...
And she is a woman.
She's a beast. And we worked on so many projects. We worked on TV stuff. We worked on artist stuff, you know, kind of thing. But seeing her in her element, like outside of competition or Polapalooza or teaching, like those two performances, I feel like her cutting herself out of the bag was her giving us her artistry. You know what I'm saying? And then her doing the performance at Black Girls Pole was just like, y'all just gonna get what you get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as an artist, you gotta be true to both.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think those are great choices. How can people find you?
Oh man, listen, it's so many easy ways to find. Now, I won't say I'm the easiest person to get in contact with, but if you are in Atlanta, you can always visit Veritcal Joes. Veritcal Joes, we're on all platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter is Veritcal Joes ATL, Facebook, you can always find us on Veritcal Joes. Me personally, you can contact VJ's Fiyastarta. But I ain't gonna lie, I'm shady on my personal brand.
Good.
If you wanna find me, go through the studio. But go to verticaljoes.com and you can always find us. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you follow all of our teammates. Everybody generally is VJ something, VJ's Fiyastarta, VJ's Allure, VJ's Royale. You can always find us online. But if you're ever in Atlanta, you gotta visit the Professional Women's Playground. And if you have pole experience, you can do a demo online by submitting your current skill set so we can place you properly. Otherwise, when you come in, you'll sign up for a pole for newbies class and come get your life. Yeah, that's basically the best place to find us.
Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much. Again, you just gave so much value. Thank you so much for being so giving, for providing a space and curriculum and everything that you've done for this community. It does not go unnoticed.
Thank you.
I really see the work that you do. So
I got something to tell you.
Oh, no.
You know, we turned 10 this year.
Yes.
We got a bunch of stuff going on.
Yes.
So look out for us in 2020.
Yes.
So our birthday's February 6th.
Yes.
We got Lap Dance for Lovers coming up.
Okay.
So that was actually our grand opening, was a Lap Dance for Lovers couples lap dance class. So we got that coming up. I'm celebrating all year long.
Yes.
So that's happening. Second quarter, actually still in first quarter, Cleo the Hurricane and Gemma Lux are coming to Veritcal Joes to celebrate. We're doing an anniversary show.
Nice.
That's in April.
Okay.
That's going to be here at Veritcal Joes. Is it April? It might be in March. I don't know. We're going to look. It's on the website.
We'll check,
We'll be at PoleCon.
Nice.
10-year anniversary. We're going to cut up. Colleen said that we can act out on our show. We're going to do that.
Yes.
We have a retreat in Hawaii.
Awesome.
This year. We also have a retreat in Nigeria.
Wow.
That we're doing towards the end of the year. That's all celebrating our 10-year mark. So that's a thing.
Yes.
Twerk technician certifications.
Yes.
If you ever want to learn to twerk like us, we're doing that.
We didn't even get to touch on all that.
We didn't even touch on that. We're not going to talk about that, but it exists.
Yes.
But yeah, we're turning 10 this year. So all this year, we're doing things that you can totally join in for. So make sure that you're following our page for that. Yeah. And we're going to launch a podcast.
Yes.
Because you're going to help us.
Yeah. Yes,
Boom.
I will.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
Yay.
Thank you again.
You're
this has
welcome,
been
friend.
an absolute pleasure.
We've been talking for hours.
I know. I wasted.
I
I took up all your time.
Oh,
I'm
no,
so
you're good.
sorry.
No.
Alrighty,
I'm
guys.
happy about it.
We'll
Bye,
see you
guys.
next time.
See you later.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Aerial Hour. I hope you learned something new or learned more about your favorite artist or at least had a relaxing time. If you want to know more about this episode, head over to theaerialhour.com and check out our show notes. I really, really hope you guys are enjoying this project as much as I am. It is truly a labor of love, so I appreciate your patience as I still continue to learn things on a regular basis. I think that's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. What do you like to do to relax?
Well, I like sitting on someone's face. I'm sorry.
My favorite pastime.
I'm sorry. Actually, let me get serious. That is nice though.